will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilor Lenzi. Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armand Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Mayor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Here.
9 present.
The chair would like to recognize Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Thomas J. Doc Grady, Lowell High teacher, athletic trainer. Mr. Grady served in the United States Navy during the Korean conflict. He was the founding president of the United Teachers of Lowell and a past vice president of the Massachusetts Federation of Teachers. He worked as a basketball and baseball referee with the Greater Lowell Youth Sports for many years. Surviving him include his wife, Rose, with whom he celebrated 51 years of marriage, his 2 sons, Kevin and Brian, and a daughter, Roseanne, and his beloved 6 grandchildren. He will be truly missed.
Thank you. And I also would like to have a moment of silence for Richard Henry Girton, a very dedicated and loving husband, father, and grandfather. Mr. Girton was extremely proud of his family, in particular, his daughter, Donna McIntosh, Executive Secretary for Manager Lynch. May we all rise with darkened chambers and have a moment of silence. Thank you. May they rest in peace. The chair now would like to recognize James Cook, Executive Director of the Lowell Plan, along with Rosemary Noon. Mr. Cook is going to present to the council and to the public the report, the mayor's report on the restoration of the Smith-Baker Center. Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mayor Caulfield, and members of the City Council. I know you've got a long agenda tonight, so I hope this is the absolute briefest section of it. We were asked by the mayor back in June if we would put a group together. The mayor appointed a task force and asked me to chair it, the results of which are before you tonight. I realize you're just receiving it tonight, so I'd like you at your convenience, if you could, to, at some point, please go through it. And either Rosemary or I will be available in my office to further elaborate on any of the recommendations within it. I also want to single out and thank Councilors Lenzi and Milanazzo, representing this council on that committee and working with us over the past 3 months. The highlights are very simple. We tried to find a way to see if this building was very viable and would be able to be put back, hopefully on the tax rolls, but to some good community use. To that end, we knew we needed to find users of the property, and we identified in this report 2 major users that are more than willing to use the facility as tenants that would pay rent and work with a private developer or whatever entity is chosen to develop the property, and that is the University of Mass Lowell and Middlesex Community College. Their commitments are expressed in this report. I think that's substantial because when you're going to undertake a project like that, clearly you need somebody that's going to use the facility that can help pay or defray the cost of running such a facility. And they step right up to the plate. Their needs are fairly immediate, so as quickly as the city is able to go into the next phase of selecting a developer, they want to sit down with the appropriate parties and work out the arrangements for how they would do that. We also, it was brought to our attention that we need to have a stabilization program. The building has some deficiencies in it now, some broken windows, some things that need to be addressed in the short term. And we've got a commitment from the National Park Service to working with the city, and the city manager's been involved in all the phases of this plan. But they need the permission from the city, and we'll be requesting that through the manager to go in. They want to button the building up for the winter and prevent any further erosion or certainly deterioration of the structure itself. Some of the stained glass windows need to be repaired, and at the appropriate point, we'll be back to you with the detail of what that will be involved with. But at this point, we're just recommending to you that over the next 2 months, that will be part of the plan that we'll continue with. And then, lastly, we are working with Adam Bakey in his office to identify possible funding strategies for the property. We've outlined some of those strategies in here. Again, it's going to be dependent on the way the city proceeds with the building, whether you decide to go through an RFP process to seek a developer, or whether you put the building out for auction or bid, or whatever vehicle you so choose. Those are the highlights. To me, the substantial part is that there are tenants identified in here that want to use this property. And I think it meets their community needs. I think it meets the needs of the city and seeing that property used again and become a workable building. And our recommendation is, again, to take the report at your own convenience, to look it over. But we'd ask for immediate action if this report could be referred back to the city manager for further study. And this committee is willing to work with the city in any way, shape, or form that you wish us to continue on. But I think this is a good start, and we're very positive about the future of that property.
Jim, I would personally like to thank you for your leadership and the entire committee for addressing this beautiful building, a historic building, and is protected by the Historical Society. And there's two things we can do. We can stand by and watch it deteriorate, or possess your leadership and with the committee and bring it back to life and make it useful. I want to, on behalf of the council, Manager Lynch, I want to thank you for your involvement and your leadership. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. I just want to thank Rosemary Noon. Basically, as anybody would know, she did the yeoman's work on this and writing the report. But again, if there are any questions anybody has at any particular time as you go through this, we'd be happy to continue to work with you and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Milanazzo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to offer in the form of a motion that it does get referred to the city manager's office for report back to the council.
Second.
And in doing so, I'd also like to recognize you, Mayor Caulfield, to thank you for putting the task force together. Again, you're correct, under Jim Cook's leadership, we were able to make some significant progress working with members of the task force, which are listed in the report, as well as working with the city through Adam Bakey's office and the National Park Services as well. So, again, I think it's a very good first step. It's a very important building in the downtown, and I think that when it gets referred to the city manager, he can come back to the task force with recommendations as we go forward, especially now as we're approaching the winter months.
Right.
We really do need to do something short-term to stabilize the property. So, again, I want to go on record as thanking the members of the committee as well.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some time ago, we looked at the second floor of the Pollard Memorial Library, and we knew that we had a jewel up there, and we knew that it was like a wasted amount of space, and we did appropriate some bonding money to make that happen, and it's a state-of-the-art facility. And many years ago, when we acquired the Smith Baker Center and we housed the then Council on Aging, we could see that it was a beautiful building, but it just outgrew its usefulness. But be that as it may, this is a beautiful building that we just really wouldn't want to see deteriorate any further. And if we could just put something into it to stabilize it till we got a beautiful report here with a lot of work that was done, I would like to see something start happening with that building as well. It's right in the heart of the downtown area here. It serves multi-purposes, and I think that it would be a good start now that we have like the tool that will help us to implement some improvements there, maybe a little bit at a time. We can't afford it all at once, but it would be good to refer it to the manager and see what we could do Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Counselor. Motion to
And I'll
refer
second
this-
that, and I'll second his
Motion
motion.
to accept the report and refer it to Manager Lynch by Counselor Milonazo, seconded by
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia. All in favor? The communication, the report is adopted and will be transferred to Manager Lynch. Mr. Manager, you want to say something?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank the Lowell Plan, their work in doing this, and also your leadership on this, bringing this project forward for further study. It is a beautiful building that's a tremendous resource here in the city, and I agree with Councilor Rita Mercia that we do need to do our job in buttoning that up, and to that end, I've already begun having discussions with Michael Creasy in the National Park with some ideas for working together to make that happen. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to work on the project and taking the council's motion and reporting back in the very near future.
Anyone else like to discuss the report? Okay. Moving on with the agenda, the chair would like to recognize Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some months ago, I was an invited guest of the Boca Sans Wasi Aksha Puru Shatam Swaminarayan Snastha, or BAPS for short. I won't say that very often because it's a mouthful. But from this group of people made up from BAPS was created BAPS Charities, a socio-spiritual organization established in 1907, relentlessly serving people all over the world through a wide spectrum of philanthropic activities. And during my visit, they asked me what they could contribute to, and I suggested our senior center Move the Bus campaign. So on September 28th, BAPS held their 10th annual walkathon, of which you, Mr. Mayor, and myself walked the full, I think they said it was 5 kilometers, but I think 5 kilometers interprets.
I think it was 6.5 miles.
Yeah, I think it was 6.9 miles or something, and my feet are still sore from it. And we did this in the rain. And the theme was building a better community. And there they most graciously presented you, Mr. Mayor, and myself a check for $2,500 to be added to the Move the Bus campaign. On behalf of all the senior citizens who will be using that beautiful bus, I want to extend their thanks, along with yours, Mr. Mayor, and Manager Lynch, and my colleagues on the City Council, the Senior Center Director Lynn Brown-Zunas, Pat Smith, the President of the Friends of the Council on Aging, and all the members of the Friends for your most generous donation. And they are sitting behind us, and they have a most humongous, beautiful check. This is a wonderful gesture, one that we will never forget. With Lynn Brown-Zunas and President Patrick Smith, at the request of you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to have them present the check to Lynn Brown-Zunas, who's here, the director of the Friends.
Cashel?
Thank you.
How about a round of applause for this wonderful organization?
And with Lynn Brown-Zunas, I'm going to present, that's the big check, but I've got the little check, and this is the one that counts. This is represented by the people that will be using the bus. It's one of our very own senior citizens, and that is Shirley Kiernan here, so I'd like to present the check to her. But let me just say that you will see young people here. This was an effort for our beautiful people here to teach the children that the elderly, the seniors, are very important in the community. So they went out and walked and gathered all kind of sponsors so that they could present a large amount of money. A lot of this is contributed from the efforts of the children. One child alone raised like and another one $700. This was remarkable. These are the children that thought of the seniors. This is a group of people they're the jewels in the city. They have a temple on Stedman Street, and they teach their children how to respect their elders, and they did this through this campaign. You ought to be commended. You are the most wonderful people, and we're very, very proud to have you in our city. Thank you very much, and I applaud you as well. Wonderful job.
Now, Cashel, if you go to the podium, the mayor is going to present you with a citation, and I want to let the council and the people in the city know the BAPS just doesn't do these charities works just in Lowell. It's throughout the world. Hurricane Katrina, earthquakes, tornadoes, and so forth. They raise money for people throughout the world. And it's a pleasure, Casal, to present this to you. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby thanks BAPS Charities for choosing the Friends of the Lowell Council on Aging as recipient of the proceeds from a walkathon. A generous donation of $2,500 has been accepted for the Move That Bus campaign. Lowell is home to BAPS Charities and local affiliated Temple. BAPS Charities has amassed over 50 years of first-hand experience in initiating, managing, and sustaining over 160 humanitarian activities throughout the world. The entire City of Lowell is proud to have BAPS Charities as a dedicated member of the community, given this 14th day of October 2008 by Mayor Caulfield, the entire City Council, and the 104,000 people who reside here.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
And moving on with the agenda, it is with great pleasure that I present a proclamation to Dr. Sean Collins, representing UMass Lowell, and it reads this way. City of Lowell, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, by His Honor Edward C. Caulfield, Mayor, proclamation. Whereas October is National Physical Therapy Month. National Physical Therapy Month began in 1981 as a National Physical Therapy Week. Since 1992, American Physical Therapy Association has celebrated National Physical Therapy Month is October, and whereas physical therapists are healthcare professionals who diagnose and treat individuals of all ages, from newborns to the elderly, who have medical problems or other health-related conditions that limit their abilities to move and perform functional activities in their daily lives. Physical therapists examine each individual and develop a plan of care using treatment techniques to promote the ability to move, reduce pain, restore function, and prevent disability. Physical therapists also work with individuals to prevent the loss of mobility by developing fitness and wellness-oriented programs for healthier and more effective lifestyles. And whereas the University of Massachusetts Lowell Physical Therapy Program is educating future physical therapists to deliver health care which is safer, more efficient, and effective, and the highest quality for patient care in the Merrimack Valley. Physical therapists are committed to the equality of health care, for which is best met through partnerships between patients, providers, consumers, and healthcare plans. Now, therefore, I, Edward C. Caulfield, Mayor of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2008 as National Physical Therapy Month in the City of Lowell, and urge all citizens to recognize the important contributions of physical therapists in our community for fitness and health, given this 14th day of October in the year 2008 by Mayor Edward Caulfield and the entire City Council, and we want to applaud you, Doctor, and commend you for the great work you're doing at UMass Lowell.
Afternoon from 3:30 to 5, right out in front of City Hall. We'll have a booth. We'll be giving out walking maps of the city developed by our faculty member, Dr. Deirdre Murphy, and her association with the Lowell Health Alliance, and also pedometers and water bottles, if anyone's interested. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much. If I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting, approved by Council Broderick, second by Council Elliott, Council Rita Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to amend the minutes of the meeting and include the name of Conrad Gauthier for a moment of silence for the last meeting, and also to amend the date from Tuesday, September 26th to actually Tuesday, September 23rd.
Okay. Motion to amend the minutes by Council Rita Mercia, seconded by Council Alec Kazanjian. All in favor of the minutes that have amended indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The minutes as amended are accepted and placed on file. Moving on with the agenda. Communications from city manager to the council. Any questions? Those communications? Council Bill Martin.
There is a communication regarding sign regulations. Is the plan now for the law department to propose an ordinance? Is that where we stand with this?
Yes, I believe that's the status.
Okay, so no action required by the council. Okay, thank you.
I just have one issue, Mr. Manager. It's not a communication from you, but I received a call over the weekend, and it's pertaining to 16 Hope Terrace. It's off of Smith Street. The Board of Health, the building department was up there earlier this summer. I believe the property is under the jurisdiction of a bank, and I received at least 5 phone calls from the residents. They want something done about the property. It's the odor emanating from the property, the trash, the debris, and so forth. It's becoming a health issue. Not only that, but I don't think people in that neighborhood have to put up with looking at that condition. So just a request, Mr. Manager. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, just in response to Councilor Martin, just we are sending it on to the law department to develop, to work with DPD on some changes to the ordinance, but also there will be a necessity of bringing it back to the zoning subcommittee. So it may be advantageous to have that matter referred to the zoning subcommittee in the very near future.
Okay.
Council Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager, there is a correspondence from Superintendent LaValle regarding the enforcement of jaywalking. And if you recall, back in August, I think it was at the August 26th meeting, there was a motion made, it was referred to the Public Safety Subcommittee. We have not yet met on this issue, and just in looking at the correspondence from Superintendent LaValle talking about the Office of the City Solicitor is currently looking at what may be done on a local level, and or should we approach the state delegation to file legislation at the state level. So I guess my question through you to the solicitor, is it appropriate that we call a public safety subcommittee meeting now, or should we wait until we have some drafts to look at?
It is unlikely, very unlikely, that we would be able to file our own special legislation when it comes to traffic regulations. And there is generally there's an argument as to the need for uniformity throughout the Commonwealth. So we're still looking at it. We've been unsuccessful in terms of whether any other communities have done this. And again, as it's explained in the communication, the fines are incredibly low. And so the better course of action may be to petition the legislature to actually change the statute to amend it, and it would apply to all communities, and there'd be some teeth to the enforcement action as opposed to going our own. As opposed to going on our own.
Okay.
That would probably be a better
Would it make
course.
sense then to have the mayor's office forward this would it make sense to have the mayor's office forward this communication to our state delegation?
Sure.
To maybe begin some dialogue with them, and then?
Sure, and the law department would be happy to draft a letter with the proposed language that,
Okay.
that we think might make sense to be adopted statewide.
Okay, so for the time being, then I'm not call a public safety subcommittee on this issue until things are a little further along. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, we received a communication from you regarding getting to zero energy challenge. Can you just give a brief explanation? I did read the background as well as what the program is, but essentially we are competing to win a $25,000 prize to implement home energy, residential energy, conservation measures, incentives for residents, residents to promote energy conservation measures, energy efficiencies. How is that going? How's that going to work?
Okay, let me refer
I mean,
that to,
Considering where, energy prices are very high, I think it's a good thing that we're doing, but how will people at home benefit?
okay, let me refer that to Mr. Sheehan.
Okay, thank you.
As the accompanying memo from DPD says, there will be a competition for two property owners to receive $25,000 awards in order to facilitate energy efficiency programs in their properties. There'll be two residential properties that would qualify, and there'll be a competition essentially to see among any number of applicants to select the projects that are the most worthy of the funding in order to accomplish the energy efficiency goals that are proposed.
So anybody can apply, but there'll only be two winners?
Correct.
And how can people find out about this program or information?
There is a website that will be launched tomorrow, or a link to the city website. So that's probably the best way. It launches tomorrow, October 15th. So people can go to lowellma.gov and check out the link to that and get all the program details through that site.
And order folks?
The alternative, they can call the Division of Planning and Development.
They can call Planning Development to get that application if they don't have access. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then finally, Mr. Manager, I want to thank you and Jeff Gomes. They investigated the crosswalk on Beacon Street for the McAuliffe Robertson School, and that will be installed next year, I believe, on Chapter 90 money. So it's a very important issue. Anyone else in the communications with Manager Lynch? If not, accept the communications, place them on file by Council Mercier, second by Council Martin. Everyone in favor signify by saying aye. We're going to move on with the agenda. We have a communication from the manager. There's a request for 3 out-of-state travel requests. Move for approval by Council Rita Mercier, seconded by Council Lindsay. Roll call.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Yes.
9 yeas.
It is now 7 p.m., and we're going to go into the public hearing. And I would ask the council if we could take out of sequence Article 3 and Article 4. We could take those two first, and then we'll go into the annual sewer use charges. Motion to do that by Council Broderick, second by Council Elliott. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Article 3 on the public hearing. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 11 thereof, entitled License and Permit Fees and Other Charges. Those wishing to come to the podium, please refrain from speaking more than 5 minutes, and just give me your name and address, please. Those wishing to speak in favor.
Mayor Caulfield, members of the City Council, excuse me, Manager Lynch, ladies and gentlemen, for the record, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass., and wish to be recorded in favor of this. I think it's only, it makes sense to do it, and I urge the council to unanimously pass this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come to the podium to speak in favor?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, and members of the City Council. For the record, my name is Tom Bellegarde, and as your Parks Commissioner, I would ask you to support this petition here tonight. I think it's a much-needed petition. I think the modification on those 2 articles will help the Board of Parks and the Parks Department do a better job handling our permits. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come forward to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to come forward to the podium to speak in opposition. In opposition. 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 The public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body? Move for approval by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Martin. Motion's been presented and seconded. Council Mercer, you want to speak?
Is this the annual sewer use charge?
No.
Which one are we at?
This is
here?
on Article 3, license and permit fees.
Oh, I
use of
see.
funds.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Roll call.
I was wondering what he was doing.
Well, I was going to bring this up, but considering my record in the last couple of weeks, I don't want to be.
I don't know what's going on.
But I think what was provided in the packet was, I think what we all have are trash fees, and it's not the sewer. I mean, it's not the, the park fees. I know we did receive it last week, but this isn't on the agenda this week, right?
That's being
Well,
marked
it's
up for a public, it
Okay.
would be sent to a public hearing.
Councilor
Thank you,
Martin?
I'm glad
Well, this is a relatively simple thing, right? It's so if it's a park general use permit, the resident adult fee is going from $15 to $25, non-resident adult from $20 to $100, non-resident youth from $15 to $50, right? That's all we're talking about here.
Manager Lynch?
If I may, just to refresh the council's memory on this, this is put forward by the Park Commission in response to the motion that was brought forward by Councilor Elliott a couple of months ago, asking that we revisit the fees, particularly for the non-resident users and the organizations that utilize the recreation fields of the city.
Any other discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Rita
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did attend that meeting. That meeting was at the request of Councilor Rodney Elliott that wanted to refer to the city manager different things that were taking place, and he wanted to be sure on fees and the use. There were other things discussed there, so I wanted to know. I know that we're just addressing the current fees amended and raised, which is a good thing, because if you look at this very carefully, it does not say youth charges were 0 and the youth charges were raised to 0, which means the youth of our city can have their coaches pull a permit and use our ballparks and not be charged a fee. That is excellent. That's why, Mr. Mayor, I had you bring over that on the school side. Whatever happened to that? Did we hear anything about my motion that I referred to you about?
Yes.
And what happened?
It turned out in a very positive way. The organization met with the school committee, and they ironed out any differences, and there's no charge for the schools. They're going to refrain from using the school on weekends. When they use the school on weekends, they have to bring in a custodian and pay that custodian overtime. So they're going to refrain from that, but everyone is happy, and I'm glad you brought that forward.
Well, thank you very much for bringing that motion forward, but there were many other things that were discussed at this particular meeting with the Board of Parks, and I brought up the fact about not subletting fields. I spoke about the stress at the different fields, that we don't give them time to rest, as I heard my colleagues say, and I brought the messages forward, that we also talked about the fields that should be used that could handle the increased use. For example, stress is created on parks and fields that can't handle all the extra usage. So are we going to do anything further with this? Because it isn't just about fees, which is a good thing that he's raising them for non-resident and non-resident adults, but are we going to go further with
Mr.
any
Belgard?
ordinance?
I'm sorry, Counselor, your concerns are what exactly? I'm sorry.
Well, we discussed many more things than just the fees. Are we going to revisit the ordinance and put in things like, we talked about who has priority use of the concession stands, because that was the concern. We discussed everything that Councilor Elliott asked us to, and that was all brought over there and discussed. Are we going to implement any new changes in the ordinance as to the input from all the coaches that were there, talking about they have right of first use for the concession stands, and are we going to do that?
Yes, Counsel. Well, we got some very good feedback from all the coaches in the league. As you know, it was a well-attended meeting.
Yep.
And I did talk to Mr. Sheen regarding the policy that we're going to put in place through the Board of Parks. We think it's a better fit through the Board of Parks on how as you know, talking in the meeting, we had a policy in an ordinance on how to build them, but we really never addressed how to maintain them.
That's right.
So we do have something coming up at the next Board of Parks meeting that's going to talk about that.
Okay.
We also have, in terms of our permit usage, something that's going to talk about conditions of the field. So you're not using the fields when we're having inclement weather where they're going to only damage the fields and compromise the safety to the athletes that are using the field. So we do have those things coming up in front of the Board of Parks, Counselor.
So we will see changes in the ordinance then?
Not necessarily the ordinance, but definitely with the permits. We're going to have a permit that will spell out what the powers are of the permittee that's going to be doing the concession stands. And we're going to spell out on every permit that we send out a policy that we've made, that I believe that they're going to discuss and approve on weather conditions.
Okay, well, that's good, because I thought that it was just stopping with the fees raising here for out of the state, non-resident adults and things.
It's my understanding that the other things can be done through the Board of Parks, Counselor.
Okay,
It's
that's
the fees
fine.
that had to be
Well,
approved
we'd
by
like
the
to know
council.
the changes as well for
fine.
this council to get that, okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council Bill Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To follow up Councilor Rita Mercier's notion about the fee waiver for certain, I think, parochial schools that use the schools during the week in those leagues that you brought to the school committee, I've received myself several compliments and thanks from people that are making use of that new policy, and I think the council should go on record in appreciation to the school committee for their seeing their way fit to
Yeah,
adopt
no
that.
doubt.
So thank you to bringing that to them, Councilor Mercier, for bringing it up, and also to the school committee that
Council,
approved it.
I'll make that tomorrow evening at the school committee meeting and let them know how
Yes.
grateful we are.
We are getting positive feedback
Yes,
already.
thank you, that's right.
Well,
Council Elliott?
Can I touch base on that? Because my understanding is that the fees were not waived for the Ecumenical League, that the fees were waived for youth organizations, the Highland Basketball League and the Centerville Basketball League, and not the Ecumenical League, that they will still receive the discounted price, but they're still going to be charged.
I haven't heard that, Counselor, but if that's so, we'll rectify that.
In fact, I
Um,
believe that was the opinion
Yes.
from the subcommittee that met on this, and I actually happened to speak to Mr. Lang, because I received phone calls and emails relative to this, and so I think there was a misinterpretation that some were being waived, but some are not. And the logic is that, these two organizations, the Highland and Centerville, sort of an extension of the rec department, and but the other fees are going to stay in place, which is a concern for these organizations that they're running their programs on a shoestring to begin with. So maybe we can get a clarification on that.
The report that I received was there are no fees for the use of the school gymnasium and so forth. There would be a fee if the organization used the facility on a weekend, which is understandable. They have to bring in a custodian on overtime. Those organizations are staying away from the weekend athletic maneuvers and whatever. But I'll look into the
Okay.
ecumenical.
Great, I'd appreciate that, and I'm sure all the schools would as well, because some of them include, the Rogers School. I mean, some of them don't have, they have their own gyms, but many public schools are part of this league now, so that would be helpful.
Okay.
And on the park, did you want to speak on this, Councilor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Elliott is right. I did receive calls from people who are involved with the Ecumenical League, and I don't believe they should be charged either. They're taxpayers in the city of Lowell. It just happens that they send their children to a Catholic school, which alleviates the burden for the public school, so really, they should be getting it with the fee waived as well. So he's right when he says that. Please
That's why
check
we have
into
meetings,
that.
and I will bring that back tomorrow night, Counselor, to the school
Thank you.
committee.
We should get it straight, because people are thanking me, so.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm here and then.
I just wanted to follow up on the motion, the ordinance before us. It really is a step in the right direction. What we had in the books were, there was a marginal fee, and many out of town, I only know firsthand, soccer organizations realized that it was so inexpensive, and they were coming to the city. And we're not trying to price them out by any stretch, but kids in the city should have priority, and they're not getting charged, and those other organizations, like they use other city facilities, should pay. And I think the follow-up policy on inclement use inclement weather use is a good thing to follow up on, because, Mr. Belgard and his staff, they really did a terrific job up at Gage Field approximately 2 weeks ago when we were having those downpours. Two organizations that had permits went and used the field anyway, and they ruined it. They ruined it for the rest of the season. Mr. Belgard did take action on it with the city manager's office and the law department to have them pay for the repairs, but I think a policy needs to be in place. And secondly, these organizations also had a permit to play up at the Vogue School, but the Vogue prohibits any use on the fields when there's rain on them, because they ruin them. So I'm glad to hear the Board of Parks is going to follow up, but I think this is a good thing, and the kids in the city will now have priority use at no fee. So thank you.
There's no other discussion or debate. We'll have a roll call vote.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Now, under the public hearings, it's Article 4. I just want to stress that. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 13 thereof, entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Anyone wishing to come to the podium and speak in favor, please come and give us your name and address, please. Speak in favor, in favor, favor. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition, opposition. Public hearing is closed. The wish of the body. Moved for approval by Councilor Arman Mercia, seconded by Councilor Bill Martin. Roll call.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Now, under the public hearings, we're going to speak on the ordinance, Chapter 18, Article 4, Section 18-192, annual sewer use charges. I'll read first reading by title, or second reading by title. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Section 18-192 of Chapter 18, Article 4, entitled Annual Sewer Use Charges. I would respect anyone coming to the podium to speak. Keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, and that will give everyone else a chance to speak, whether they're in favor or in opposition. Those people wishing to come to the podium and speak in favor, please come forward.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. City Manager, my name is Stephen Conant. I reside at 34 Barrisford Avenue, and I'm here to speak in favor of the, first of all, the rate increase to accomplish improvements to the Lowell wastewater treatment plant. I'm going to speak on just 3 items in my 5 minutes. First is the odor from a first-hand experience. Second is the capital investment that this involves. And third, on the cost. As I said, I speak from first-hand experience. I live at 34 Barrisford Avenue. When I get up in the morning, I open my curtains in my bedroom and I have a beautiful view of the Merrimack River. Sometimes that closeness to the Merrimack River comes with a great odor. In fact, when I first moved to the house in 2002, one of the little secrets they didn't tell me in the real estate disclosure was that there's a little odor that comes from the plant. Now, I'm a Belvedere boy from way back, and I can remember when the plant smelled really horrible when it was first put in place. I wasn't aware that we were still having a problem as of 2002, however. So, like the good planner I have been in the past, I began to take notes of when I would call the plant to complain about the odor. And in the last 6 years, I've called that plant well over 50 times that I've documented. And I have to say that every time I've called, the response has been really terrific from the people who operate that decaying facility. I can't have enough good things to say about Mark Young and his operation. I will offer a couple of recommendations, though. In the few years that I have been calling, one of the things that has happened, when I first would call, I would actually get a person at the plant, and they would tell me that maybe the gate wasn't closed properly or there was a door left open. And so I'd have an explanation as to why I was getting this awful odor on a summer evening or a Sunday morning when I was out in the garden, or maybe I didn't want to run my air conditioner and left the windows open, got home at 6 o'clock at night and realized that the smell was so bad that I felt like I was living in the plant. What they need to do really is, in the time that's
occurred is that the phone system there has really not been responsive. There's no way if I call in, I get trapped in voicemail. I can ask for an extension of somebody whose extension I don't know. I usually look for Mark Young, although I can't get there. What they need to do is put something on that phone system that says, if you have an odor complaint, please leave a message. And that will, quite honestly, sort of relieve some of the frustration. I know, Mr. Mayor, I've called you in the past. Mr. Milanazzo, I've called you in the past. Mr. Martin, I haven't got to the rest of you guys, but if this continues, I might. And it's really a sort of a frustration thing. I know the plant's done a lot to look at odor control in the last year, including this report here. But if you'll notice, one of the things that's missing from this report is that the odor monitors are only on the plant. It's only within the confines of Duck Island, within the treatment plant. Let me tell you that odor is in the nose of the beholder. And they really have to expand beyond just the boundaries of the plant in doing their monitoring. I know this is scientific. They do hydrogen sulfide, and they have little monitors set up. It's a very engineering approach to a problem, which is good. But this is also a human person problem, people problem. I know I'm not the only person in my neighborhood that has this problem. I know people who have moved from my neighborhood because of the problem. They really need to expand it. What I would recommend, secondly, is that they have some type of a citizens advisory committee that would sort of oversee and have a network of people who actually, when they smell the plant, that they can call, leave a number, they can put that against what the existing conditions are at the plant, and really try to configure where the problem is. Because what the report shows is that there are multiple problems at the plant. It's difficult putting a finger on it, although these improvements that they haven't planned, I think, will do a lot for them. Mark tells me that. Second is the cost. Capital investment at any time is really a major thing that we look to you as city councilors to make hard decisions on. It's never easy to ask for a rate increase anywhere, especially during what is could be conceived as tough economic times. However, as a person who's run public construction projects, one of the things I'd offer you to consider is that a capital investment in public infrastructure when the economy is tough is a very good thing to do. It's a time when the private sector has slowed down. You can actually create jobs and keep some people working at a time when they may find it tough. The cost of construction, at this point, you're not competing with the private market. So if you've got the money to invest, you're going to get your best value for your dollar at a time when the economy is slow, as a time when the economy is very hot and worked up. So I would offer that in your consideration. For those of you who'd ask questions about the capital cost, I respect anybody who's on this city council and asking tough questions about capital expenditures. That's what you're here for. I think you should do that. But I really think that this is a very good investment for the city going forward. Finally, there's a question of what it's going to cost our ratepayers. And the only thing I'm going to offer to you is something that was difficult for me to find when I left the house because I was going through the junk drawer a little bit, and it's this. I don't know if you can see it from there, Mr. Mayor. It's a dime. 10 cents a day is what this will cost us to fix that plant and make sure that it works for everybody in the city. I thank you for your time and indulgence. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else wishing to come to the podium?
Mayor Caulfield, members of the City Council, and the city staff, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Stephen Green. I reside at 181 Market Street, and relatively new resident to Lowell, and someone who spent 20 years living in the MWRA sewer district and was also a member of a Citizens Advisory Committee for the MWRA. The necessity of making these improvements is critical, and the sooner you do it, the better. I can tell you that from experience with the MWRA, a lot of time was spent fighting, making the improvements. It wasn't until court action actually forced them to do it, and at that point it became very expensive. Most people don't appreciate it, that because of the delays, because of the fact that federal money wasn't available to do it, MWRA's fixed budget, about 57% of it is for interest costs to support because they had such major capital expenditures. So the sooner that the city can do this, the better off we will be. A sewer system is an important investment in the infrastructure. We don't see it, we don't look at it, no one complains about it until it's not working. But it's something that needs to be kept up to date, and the wastewater treatment plant is critical for preserving water quality in the river, but also the quality of life in the city from a health point of view, from an aesthetic point of view. I don't live near the plant, but I can tell you I have smelled it many times going by it. And that's not the type of thing that a city of the caliber of Lowell should have. So thank you for the opportunity. I urge you to support the rate increase because this is a public benefit for all of us. Thank you.
This portion of the public hearing is only for those people in favor. In favor. If you oppose, this ain't the portion to speak in opposition.
Am I surprising you, Mr. Mayor?
Well, yes, you are.
Let me suggest this to the City Council. If it's a fiscal matter, that's one of the reasons I'm here, because this city has some very severe fiscal problems. The plain fact is this council has approved a bond issue for $35 million. The question before you is how do you pay for it? And obviously, it's either going to go on the tax rate or it's going to go on a fee. So the recommendation is that it go on a fee. I don't like fees because they're not tax deductible, but it frankly is the only conclusion that can be drawn by the City Council. But let me suggest to you the problems with the city. The parking garage, by the way, as we all know, costs $48 million. $46 million, excuse me. The principal and interest over 20 years is $2,300,000 a year. In order to realize that, the parking fees have to approximate $180,000 a month for the next 20 years. I've tried to get somebody to ask the question in the newspaper. That parking garage has been open now for 7 months. How much has been collected? My estimate is $20,000 a month.
Mr. Sullivan, could we
Wait, this is
stay to
important.
the sewer rate?
This is important as you start to talk about the finances of the city, Mr. Mayor, because the faint fact is you have two motions on about the fiscal condition of the Commonwealth. Councilor Elliott has a question on about the expenditures and revenues for the past year. And what I'm trying to tell you is if you're collecting $20,000 a month and you need $180,000 a month for the past 7 months, you've lost $160,000 a month. In addition to that, by the way, for the benefit of the people who are watching on television, the assessments are out for the city. If you go on lowellmass.gov, they're out. I checked on mine. My house last year was assessed for $400,500. It is now assessed for $366,000, which is a drop of about 8.5%. I've checked on others. It appears that the approximate deductions are the same, about 7%, 6% across the city. Let me tell you what this means, Mr. Mayor. If the reductions are 7%, the total valuation of the city is $7 billion plus. You're going to lose $500 million worth of assessments, which comes to $5 million worth of revenue. So your problems are not easy, but this city council has got to start to ask the questions about finances. The arena that I said was losing $1 million a year 2 years ago, and I said give it to the university, has lost $10 million in the past 10 years. It lost more money last year. The ball field is still being used by an affiliate of the Red Sox, and we are still not charging any rent for the facility that costs $13 million. The city council has to understand this financial condition of this city is serious. If anybody believes that you're going to get $800 million worth of development in the site that you got over the jam plan, you've just lost $500 million of it.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Those wishing to speak in favor of the sewer rate increases, please come to the podium.
My name is Anne Marie Page. I live at 26 Fremont Street, where I own my home with my husband here in Lowell. I have a question. I wish to speak on this matter, but prior to that, I have a letter from someone that is unable to be here. Am I able to read the letter in favor?
Sure.
Thank you. Dear Council, please, this is from Pat Hunt on Llewellyn Street in Lowell. Dear Council, please consider approving the proposed $35 million improvement package for the city's water treatment plant on First Street, rebuilding of the pumping station in the VFW median, finally and most importantly, the improvements on the flood levees in Centerville and Pawtuckaville sections of Lowell. It is the responsibility of the City Council as our governing body to ensure the safety, well-being, and quality of life for all residents of Lowell. If this proposal is voted down, the residents of Centerville and Pawtuckaville will once again become victims of bad policy. These residents live in continuous fear of flooding and the reality that history will repeat itself, and again, they will be faced with the same disaster they endured in May of 2006 and again in 2007. These same victims will also be victims of rising insurance costs to insure their home and personal belongings. They face the reality of being forced to purchase flood insurance at the cost of $1,500 to $2,000 per year, along with carrying a homeowner's insurance policy, costs that most of those homeowners will not be able to handle. There needs to equity in the treatment and consideration for all residents of Lowell when you, the council, make policy and vote for or against projects that ultimately affect the quality of life for everyone. Please be empathetic to these taxpayers, homeowners, residents, and families, and imagine how you would feel if faced with the uncertainty of another flood, and once again have to assume the task of rebuilding your life. Warmest regards, Pat Hunt, Vice President, Centerville Neighborhood Action Group. And I would like to speak on my own behalf. Again, my name is Anne Marie Page, and I am the president of the Centerville Neighborhood Group. I wish to thank you all for taking a second look at this. We realize that you're here to watch out for our money, and we do appreciate that. We really do. This is a proposal for an 11% storage hike, which should increase the average city homeowner's annual bill by $32 a year. Not $32 a week, not $32 a month, but $32 a year. That means the annual bill would probably go from $283 a year to $325, which means you're now paying 77 cents a day for storage. That would go up to 89 cents a day for storage. And if you think that's bad, try a septic tank and a few repairs and cleaning and all those other little wonderful things that go with septic systems. We all know that this is to pay for a multi-million-dollar infrastructure improvements already approved by the council. And we're great at building things, but someplace along the line, we have to remember they have to be maintained, and sometimes they have to be updated. This wastewater plant needs serious updating. You don't think so? Come over to Centerville and have a picnic. Old tanks and very, very serious odor problems. And they've been there since prior to you buying your house. Some neighbors today, still on a lovely summer day when you would like to open your windows, have to close their windows because it is so offensive. It must be a real treat to live in those condos over there. We are a city of neighbors, and the majority of people in Lowell are very good neighbors. And that was very obvious when we had the floods in Centerville and Pawtuckaville. And you remember, because Mayor Caulfield was there, Mr. Kazanjian sent over his equipment, his men, at no charge to the city, and volunteered them for several days. Many of you were there. You went over to help as much as you could, and you know how much those neighbors suffered. If this is not approved, if this job is not done with the levee and the pump station as requested by the Army Corps of Engineers, then all the people in that section of Pawtuckaville and that section of Centerville will be hit. If they don't get hit with the flood, they're going to get hit with extremely high flood insurance bills. So hard, they can't really afford it. So let's take a look. $32 a year. And if you take a good look at that, as the gentleman prior said, for 10 cents a day, you can all be a good neighbor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come and speak in favor?
Mayor Caulfield, members of the council, Mr. Manager, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. And I'm in favor of this because it is essential. One of the mandates from the Environmental Protection Agency is the separation of our combined sewers, to separate the sewer and water line, excuse me, to separate the sewer and water lines. We need to do that. And unfortunately, the federal government is not going to give us a lot of money for it, prior to the situation we're facing now in the country. This plant needs to be improved. This plant needs to be updated, and this is the only way to do it. I urge this council to unanimously vote in favor of this, because we don't want to have situations where floods happen and we cannot get federal financial assistance and be declared a disaster if it happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
I'm closest. Name is Armin W. LeMay, and I'm from Lowell. I didn't come here, I came here to speak on the plant, but people have been talking about odors, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to tell you a few things about odors. First of all, I was fortunate to build the only sludge composting plant of its kind in New England, in Springfield, Massachusetts, 1991 and 92. It is the best thing I've ever seen, okay? Now, I suggested, say 92, I forget the years because I'm getting older, you know. But anyway, it was either 92 or 93, and I suggested to the Lowell city government that they should, look into this plant and put out requests for proposals for them. Well, let me say, I could be up here a week, honestly. But anyway, 15 proposals were put in, all right? 15. And, well, the city did not want to make a choice, I think because I was involved in one of them. Honestly, God, and they were friends of mine. I don't go for friendship. If it's right, it's right. If it's a friend, too bad, I'll see you later. That's the way it's got to be. I've always been that way. But anyway, they did not do anything about it. And as it happened, this plant was going to be built free of charge to the city. They would be run for 20 years free of charge to the city, but it would cost the city $100 a ton, a dry ton, I remember, for a sludge, to cure it and to make it. See, Lowell has a type 1 sludge. Very few have one type 1 sludge because all their, the things from the mill do not run into there anymore. So it's just, water, and it's just storage, which is not bad compared to what the other stuff that they were throwing in. But anyway, it was, oh God, I'm going to forget what I want to say, but I wrote a few notes anyway. But, so I want to speak about, but this would have solved, see, everything. Our plant was the only, the plant that was a German technology. The only plant that could be built right next to your plant, because it was very small, and huge tanks on top, and everything was covered. Everything, the sludge, you wouldn't smell one thing. It would take all the smell out of all of it. Believe me, I know what sludge is. I know what it was to build that plant. I could write a book on when they built it, the things that happened, and the thing nobody listened to, But I changed some things, but not enough. But anyway, this would have solved a lot of problems. But anyway, it was let go by the wayside. It was just pushed aside. I said, well, it's too bad, really, because this was going to be privately built, privately run by 2 people. Everything's automated, unbelievable plant. As a matter of fact, I showed it to the Paul Levy when they built Deer Island. He called me down to look at them, okay? And I told him, you know what they did in Boston? You talk about waste some places. Boston built a plant for $100 million just to begin with, okay? And they got to barge every ounce of that sludge down the river to Quincy to treat it. And you know what it was costing back then? $500 a ton. 500, as opposed to ours, which was 100. And so I said, I could have built 5 plants at $10 million a plant and put them right on Deer Island, and you wouldn't have a problem. He says, when he saw it, he says, yes, I know, I can see that now. Well, anyway, a day late and $1 short. Hey, I don't want to go. But anyway, it would have stopped the smell that you're worried about. And see, because I was the only councilor to vote against, those apartments right next to the plant? I voted against that. I said, you can't have that there. We might need that land someday, okay? But I was the only councilor back there 20 whatever years ago. But I stood, I didn't care. There were friends of mine that wanted this. I said, I don't care who you are. My son, my brother, too bad. It's not, the city should own that land, okay? But anyway, you could have put a plant right there and do all kinds of problem solving. But anyway, I'm only trying to say that there are ways of solving it. And I went to the plant today. I want to talk on the plant, which I hope I can later. That's another subject, isn't it? The money for the plant and all that stuff. Is this it? Oh, this is the one? Yeah, but see, I got to tell you about the plant, too. I honest to God, I don't want to stay, but I really didn't want to talk about sludge, honest to God. I made a couple of notes. But anyway, oh, God. Let's see. Okay. All I'm trying to say is, hey, there's a lot of things you can do. As a matter of fact, I visited the Bill Ricker plant to see what they were. They're older than ours. But, hey, you should see what they do with their sludge, okay? They built this huge building, but it's all the doors are open to the outside, and all the smell can come out. I said they should block all that up. And you know what we did, and we changed? They got the same plant at Disney World, Disney World in Florida. I went down to see it. We made it much better because, we made things that, let me tell you, just quickly. All the fumes, you know how it works? There's 2 huge tanks on top, and it's done by wood chips. No
Mr.
chemicals.
LeMay, I don't want to interject, but
I know.
we're addressing sewer rate charges, and what is your feeling on that? That's what we're
Oh, my
discussing.
feelings are for it, because hopefully you're going to look
Then
into
you're in favor.
getting rid of that sludge. That's all, the smell. That's how much is it costing the city, while I think of it, to get rid of that sludge right now? I'll bet it's a hell of a lot more than $100 a ton. Let me tell you. You got to truck it out. You got to send it someplace, and there's where the smell comes when they're loading the trucks and doing all that stuff. I know how it works. Believe me, I've done it all my life. Okay. Not just on that. I built some good stuff, but it's just too bad. A lot of things, and I've said a lot of things to a lot of people. When I was here, I know what one person can do to change things. Just one. If he knows what he's talking about, or she knows what she's talking, like Rita knows some things too. But anyway, I'm just saying, I know, but hey, I do want to talk on the plant. I want to talk about the plant because I'm full.
Mr. LeMay, you've had more than 5 minutes.
I know that, but I thought it was just on the smell and all that. I wanted to alleviate some fears. Is there going to be anything coming up about the plant that I can speak on later?
No.
No? Oh. You got to support the plant. Okay, no, I'll tell you why. I visited the plant. I talked to the guy in charge. I've known him for some time. And hey, there's major problems, okay? There's major problems. And I'm going to tell you what they are very quickly. I got to put my glasses on. It's his to get old. You know that, Alan.
Mr. LeMay, you have about one more minute.
Okay. The screws there, it's not that the screws are in bad shape, but it's the things around them and the let's say, the motors that run them, the gears. They've got lifts on top of each one that they pull out. They're repairing those motors, which lose efficiency unbelievable, and they put them on the ground, and they redo them over, and they put them back up again. Those things have got to go. You've got okay, what have I got? Oh, the motor control centers. Antiquated, bad. I mean, these electric parts, there's huge things of electricity. You got to get, it's wrong here. Whose fault is it? I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. It's old. It's always moisture in there. You got major problems. But I mean, you got to have ways of, but let me tell you, they need the money for screws. Usually that plant is supposed to take about 25 million gallons a day. Heavy rains, 100 million gallons, and they can't get it out if those screws do not work. Only one is working now. They fixed a few some years back, I remember. But
Thank you, Mr. Lyon.
it's not just the screws.
Thank you.
It's so much out there. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, come to the podium, 5 minutes or less. Give us your name and address.
How you doing? I'm Tim Ignacio, live at 66 Shirley Ave, and I live in Clay Pit, and I'm in favor of this tax increase. I'm not affected. I'd like to see the pumping station get back online and the levee get built up. It's not going to affect me from where I live, but I want it to be installed and upgraded so that nobody else in the Centerville and Rosemont area will get flooded out again, because you have an opportunity right now to make a decision tonight to make sure that hundreds of people do not get impacted again. So I am in favor, and it's that simple.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, members of the City Council. I'm not going to repeat a lot of the things that were said, but I am in favor of this motion this evening. I'd just like to say, Mr. Mayor, you and I, members of the City Council, Brian Martin, have sat in countless subcommittee meetings and City Council meetings for the last 2 years to solve the issues of flooding regarding these neighborhoods. And in fact, from what I understand, Nikki Songus is coming to the city on Monday to walk the flooded areas so we can try to get some federal funding to take care of the issues that affect Clay Pit and Rosemont Terrace. I don't think we should be playing Russian roulette with the neighborhoods in Centerville and the neighborhoods in Pawtuckaville. We know that we've had 2 floods in 2 years. We don't know if the levee's been compromised. All you have to do is drive over the Aiken Street Bridge and see the toppled over trees. It takes a lot of force to knock those trees over. I know these are tough economic times, but I would just like to say that a lot of work has gone into the flood issues the last 2 years, and to even delay it would be a step backwards. As chairman of the Pawtuckaville Flood Group, it's my responsibility to stand before you representing the residents of Pawtuckaville, and Ann Page representing her group in Centerville, to ask for your help to continue the work that we have been doing to protect the businesses and neighborhoods. Mr. Mayor, you've walked the neighborhoods. Alan, you've walked the neighborhoods. Rita, all of you have been down in the neighborhoods during the devastating times. You know what the families have been through. You know what the effects were. A lot of the older residents used up their retirement to put their homes back together. I'm just asking you to go forward and continue to go forward to help the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else wishing to come forward and speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to a sewer rate increase? Public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body? Council Martin.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor, move approval by Council Martin, second by Council Milonazo. A debate and concerns on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I think everybody here is pretty much on board as far as that the Duck Island the wastewater treatment plant does need work. And from day one, I was always in favor for odor control. There's no question about it. And I did tour the facility with the mayor, and Mark Young gave us a great tour and told us some of the items that were top priority, and screw pumps, whether it's the screw pumps and a couple of tanks in the back, and a couple other things that created the odor. And I was always on board with that. I did get some other calls in the last couple of weeks, so people have some major concerns, and my intent was always to, in favor of some portion of this, and especially the odor control. First of all, I think of the people aren't getting the street dope here. I mean, yeah, it's going to be $32 of an increase, but that's just for the first year. After 4 years, this is going to go up 70%, up to $505. So I don't know. They're not getting the straight scoop of what's going on over here, and that's my major concern. And I think it's a lot of the concerns of the council here, or some of them, anyways, is the big cost factor. For 2013, each individual is going to pay $505 per year for a sewer rate. Yeah, it's going to go up $32 for 2009, but after that, it's going to continually jump up 26%, 11%, and jump up to $505. That's my major concern, and I think that's, like I said, it's a concern of some of the councilors here. I do have some questions, and why the levy, I know the levy in the pump station has to be done at some point, but why is that included, Mr. Manager, with this sewer rate? I mean, it's got nothing to do with Duck Island. Why is this involved with this to begin with?
Well, Council, I think that's it's certainly a valid question, and just if I may, I think the administration's certainly been right up front from the beginning, is that this is a long-term process of raising the rates, largely to meet the $65 million that's already been borrowed and spent, that was approved several years ago by the council without any rate increase. So we've certainly been up front with that. We have worked, and we'll be happy to make a presentation later regarding some methods that we've done or taken, or steps we've taken to try to smooth that increase out over time. You are correct, though. It will, over time, go up to $505 because we are dealing with that $65 million plus this $35 million. And I have to tell you, looking forward, we still have the rest of the CSO project, and we have a whole other set of needs at that treatment plant that I've already deferred to hold this rate down so that we can move through this process more easily for the ratepayers of the city. But we do have to face reality that it's an old plant that needs work. As far as the flood issues, it's always been the practice here in the city that all of the flooding issues are related to wastewater, and so therefore they come out of the wastewater operation. That's how we paid for the removal of the vegetation on the bank of the levee. It's how we paid for the work that's done on the flood wall over at Beaver Brook, anything that's needed there. It's always been, anything that's wastewater related, including flooding, has been tied to the wastewater operation. So that's where we put that. Now, one could argue that, it could go on the tax rate to handle it in that manner. We felt that this was a more appropriate way because it's always been done that way. And we also, by doing it in this manner, it relieves the taxpayers of the city and places some of these costs on some of the large institutional users of the city that don't pay taxes necessarily, but do pay wastewater charges. The university, the two hospitals, the housing authority, that don't currently. That bill we felt belongs in the wastewater operation as opposed to putting it on the taxpayers.
Okay, Mr. Belay mentioned that Brian Martin and Nikki Zongas is coming to the town, the city, and federal money, any type of grant money for this levy, can we push towards any type of federal grant money to get this levy instead of putting it on towards the tax rate?
Well, I think that
the sewer rate.
Certainly we've had conversations with them about that. We've had conversations about not even having to do this work. But this all goes back many years, where the city has been, this whole levee, the pumping station, the flood wall along Beaver Brook was paid for by the federal government in the 1940s with the proviso that it was then up to the city to maintain it. And that may or may not have been done in the 40s and 50s and 60s, but we're pretty sure that the 70s, 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s, that has not been done. When I met with the Corps of Engineers after coming on as city manager in August of 2006, I met with them in September, at the request of the mayor, I had them out. The first thing they did was they brought me a letter that had been sent to the city the prior year demanding that this work take place, or else we were going to be removed from flood emergency management funding in the future. And then that was quickly followed by putting it on to the, the flood flood insurance maps, putting it into flood zone. Is there federal money for this? I think we all know that the federal government right now is tied up with a number of other demands on their resources. It's unlikely that they would fund something that they had handed to us back 50 years ago and told us to maintain, and we never did. I think what's more hopeful for us is, if you recall, we're trying to get the federal government through the Corps of Engineers to fund that new flood wall on the other side of Beaver Brook. That's about a $2 million cost. We're also looking for the Army Corps of Engineers to hopefully help us in the Clay Pit Brook area. I would venture to say that the Corps of Engineers is going to be more likely to be willing to fund those type of improvements if we can show that we live up to our commitments by maintaining the levee, maintaining the pump station, maintaining the clearing of vegetation out in that area.
But has the question been asked? I mean, if there is any funding out there? I mean, it says.
I've had discussions with the Corps of Engineers regarding that, and their opinion is that this was our responsibility.
How about Congresswoman Tsongas?
We haven't spoken to Congresswoman Tsongas about that. We've spoken to Congresswoman Tsongas about the flood wall at Beaver Brook, and also the work that needs to be done, the Corps of Engineers study, and the work that needs to be done up in the Clay Pit Brook area.
Well, is there something we can talk to her about there and see if there's
Absolutely.
any type of possibility of getting
Absolutely.
some type of federal money?
And if that happens, then we obviously wouldn't move forward with spending this money. But I think that our arguments are pretty weak in asking the federal government to pay for something that we were supposed to be paying. Essentially, this goes back, if I may, this goes back largely to Katrina. The city of New Orleans did not maintain its levees that were built by the Corps of Engineers. And in recognition of that, the Corps of Engineers has stepped up their enforcement throughout the country. We're certainly not alone in this. There are a number of communities that are having the same problems and having the same issues, and the Corps of Engineers is taking a very strong stand on this, that federal money has been spent, and they expect that federal money will be protected.
Okay, also, amortized for 4 years. What's the life of this?
It's amortized for 20 years.
20 years. So what happens after 2013? I mean, right now, all we're seeing is 4 years, and we're jumping up 70%.
We can put that out to, this is being phased, this $35 million is being phased in over the next 5 years. The 65 is already out there, it's been spent. This $35 million that was approved by the council back in June is being phased in over a period of time through a combination of construction scheduling as well as short-term borrowing and then ultimately long-term borrowing. We can actually bring you out 10 years. We could probably bring you out even 20 years if you so desired. But this is, as I said, this is something that's going to, when it goes up to 505, I think you're right. Now, I'm certainly, I'm not thrilled about the fact, but I'm not afraid to tell the people that the cost of maintaining this plant and the cost of providing sewerage and wastewater for the citizens of Lowell is going to continue to go up. We do have that problem of the continuation of the CSO project. That's something that we have to live by. It also is going to go up because, again, you're going to need to keep on spending money on this plant. I think that, if anything, is the problem that we have today, is that the plant should have been maintained better over a period of time, or if there was nothing necessarily to do with the plant during that period of time, there should have been money set aside in reserve. I was at the Pawtucketville Citizens Council just the other night, and a citizen up there asked that very question. Shouldn't the city have been setting money aside? Shouldn't the rates have been raised years ago to make sure that there was money on hand? She's right. We should have, but we didn't. And so therefore we have to raise the rates more now. Likewise, if we defer the increase of the rates now, all it means is the rates are going to be all that much higher 2 years from now or 3 years from now when we are having a deficit in that account.
Well, like again, if we amortize this loan for 10 years.
It's 20 years.
20 years, is it still the same type of rate? The rate doesn't change at all?
No, this is based upon a 20-year amortization. All we've shown you is 5 years out, but as I say, we're prepared to show you 10 years out tonight with this in there. But we amortize this we pay this out on a 20-year bond.
Okay, now, if we didn't borrow this $35 million, would the rates go up at all?
Yes.
They would?
They should.
How much?
This year, I believe they'd go up $16 or $17 for the average.
Right.
So it's about 6%.
Yeah.
And then next year, you would still have to go up even more again because what happens next year is the 65 really hits next year in terms of debt service. The debt service at this plant is currently $2.6 million. Without any increase, without the 35 million, it's $2.6 million. That goes up, again without the 35, to $4.5 million.
Okay, we have something listed here for Warren Street for, I'm not sure
The
what,
CSO?
right.
Yep.
Warren Street
$3 million.
CSO, 2.5 or $3 million?
Yes.
Now, something was approved back in '04 for $15 million, and it said right in the loan order that Warren Street was going to be taken care of. So why are we doing it again if it's already been, we already borrowed $50 million?
Well, I wasn't here in 2004, but maybe Mr. Young can, or one of the people from wastewater could speak to that issue of what happened and what was going on out there in 2004.
Councilor, the $50 million was not for the Warren Street station itself, but it was for sewer separation in the Warren Street area. It wasn't so much improvements at the station. What we're
Has the
looking
work
for
been
now-
done, Mr. Young?
Excuse me?
Has the work been done on Warren Street?
We've been doing sewer separation in the Warren Street area, not on Warren Street proper.
Okay, do you have intentions to do Warren Street at some point in time?
Not in our current plan. If we do future sewer separation, we could be
This-
looking at the Warren Street area.
This
itself.
loan order says including Warren Street plus a few other streets also. It distinctly says Warren Street. I mean,
Council, are you speaking to the loan order that's before you now or the one in 2004?
2004. And
Oh, okay.
also, he's got something here for $3 million for the Warren Street station.
That's for the station
Right.
specifically, but
I can
I
see that,
understand
but-
your question regarding
Right.
Warren Street. Mr. Young?
Yeah, what we're referring to Warren Street is the Warren Street drainage area. It's not Warren Street proper. This is the largest drainage area in the city. This is the work that's actually being done on Chelmsford Street and Gorham Street. This is all encompasses the Warren Street area. We weren't specifically targeting one particular street.
Okay, but I guess, again, the loan order is for Warren Street, plus it specifies certain streets that's supposed to be done. Cabot Street, Douglas Road area, but Warren Street is definitely in there, so.
Yes, and that's just one of the streets we were looking at, as well as what
Okay.
currently we're looking at Wentworth.
So that is in the
Douglas.
works at some point? Warren Street, is that correct?
Yes, that'll be looked at.
Okay. That's it for now, thank you.
Council Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we talk about property that the city owns, it is imperative that we maintain that which we own, and the wastewater treatment plant is no exception. For many years, it has needed upgrades and major improvements, and many councils for many, many years have always voted yes, yes, yes. And the 13 years that I've been here, I voted yes every single time. But with every yes vote comes added costs, and someone has to pay, and that is the ratepayer. The last time we bonded $65 million was the time we should have added a small increase at that time, because now, in my opinion, we're asking way too much. You may say a dime here, a dime every day. That's real good, but that adds up when people are not working. Now we're combining the 2 or 3 bonds, $65 million. There was another bond here on August 14th of '07 for $5.5 million. Incidentally, Mr. Manager, have we used that bond, $5.5 million? What have we done with that in August of
I
07?
do have a report here from the auditor. If you want, I'll read the report I
Well,
have.
just yes or no, we're moving on with it?
Yes, we are, and that's part of the 65. That 5.5 is part of the 65.
Part of the 65.
Right, and we are moving forward with that, yes.
And we're asking for an increase that we're overburdening the people. In my opinion, I'm only giving you my opinion, when it might have been less gripping if we had increased the fee a little at a time. That's my opinion. Because here's the scenario, Mr. Manager. In February, we will increase the trash fee. Taxes are sure to go up. The economy is in the crapper, so to speak. More people than ever before are probably out of a job, and now we're asking the ratepayers to pay a higher fee for services that we no doubt need to provide. And there isn't anyone sitting in before you in this room that doesn't believe that everything that Mark Young said. I know we need everything, and then more. We need more than that. Now, Mark Young asked for it. We know that this needs to be done. We all know that. But if I recall at the last subcommittee meeting, Mr. Manager, we asked that with the economy the way that it is right now, we wanted you to prioritize and bring back to us a scaled-down version of what is needed so that we can look at ways to look into minimizing the vast impact to the homeowners and lessen the fees. I don't know. I was at that meeting. Is it just me? Because I don't know what we have before us, and I thought that that's what we were asking for, because you had the whole scenario of all the things that we needed to do, and we asked that you scale it down a bit and give us things that needed to be done in an emergency situation. For example, there are 4 screw pumps. I thought I heard that maybe you could bring us back the cost and eliminate maybe $9 million where it would only be 2 screw pumps. I don't know. I don't see that here this evening. Do you want to interject right now?
Mr. Manager, go ahead.
Sure, I'd like an answer.
Okay.
Go ahead.
If I may, Councilor, two points. The first is I couldn't agree with you more that the city should have, when it was approved the $65 million, the rate should have increased at the time. And frankly, when we approved the $35 million, I should have brought forward a rate increase that time when it was fresher in everyone's mind exactly what was before them, because there was a rate increase included in that package that we gave you, but we held off to, get through it a little bit and then come back to you with a rate increase a little bit later. But you're right. The smaller increases would have been far better, and that's what we intend to do moving forward. As far as the subcommittee meeting, there were ideas tossed around at that subcommittee, not necessarily that I recall, to come back with a plan to reduce that, but a way to smooth out the increases so that next year would be smaller. People didn't seem to have a problem, very frankly, as my recollection is. People didn't seem to have a problem with the 11% this year. The big problem was with the 18% next year. 26% next year. So we went back, we reworked some of those numbers, we tried to go a little bit more risky, but we went out with this different borrowing pattern, and we've been able to knock that down to 18% next year, and then 11, and then a 7 on the last year. We also looked at a couple of the ideas that were tossed about. Councilor Kazanjian certainly had an excellent idea of, let's look at this, only doing 2 screw pumps. And we went out and we talked to the engineers and we talked to the vendor who sells these screw pumps. And basically we've identified that by doing by putting off the repair of 2 of those and only doing 2 now, we would we would defer $1.5 million. That's the cost of the pumps. All of the electrical work still would need to be done. All of the mobilization would still need to be done. So effectively, we defer $1.5 million, which is like $1 on the annual rate. And in the long run, it would cost more because you'd have to come back in, spend that $1.5 million, plus remobilize all the contractor and look at the cost of that probably going up. So it was going to cost us more in the long run. But we did look at it. Certainly, any idea to sort of think outside the box, we went back and did.
Now, in June, we voted for the $35 million loan order bond. Right. Where are we with that? Did we get it, or did we issue it yet? What's happening with that?
We have not issued that yet. And I'm probably glad that we didn't.
That's right.
Based
I'm glad
upon
too.
Tonight, or to see what happens with the council tonight. But we have not issued that. It's our intention, based upon the vote of the council, whether we'll go forward to apply for state loan assistance that would write down the loan rate to us for 2%. Just to give you some sense of what that means, if we're able to move forward with this project, with that loan money, which, given the state of the state, is unlikely it will be there in the future, that will have a $20 a year impact on the average ratepayer. So if we do it now, we save.
Well, why don't we think a little bit more, because here are some suggestions here.
Sure.
Would it be possible to reduce the loan order from $35 million to $26 million, and then perhaps stretch out the payments for 4 years, from 4 years to 8 or 10 years? Because it's a 20-year loan, isn't it?
That's correct.
We want to pay it in 4 years?
No. We're going to pay it over 20 years.
Then why are we stretching the payments to 4 years? Why are you putting the rate?
We gave you a phased-in approach to the 35 million actually
then why
being
don't we-
spent.
well, then why
But
don't
it's
we-
actually borrowed over 20 years. But we can show you, as I said, Councilor Kazanjian, we can show you 10 years.
Well, why don't we do that? Why can't you show us that then?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, well then, I know we have.
It has the same, it has the same impact in terms of the rates. All we're showing you what's going to happen over 10 years. You can take the amortization of the loan and show it going out over 20.
Well, I'm
But it
concerned
doesn't
about-
impact the rate structure at all. All we showed you is just 5 years to give you a sense of, rather than, look, I could have come in here at the subcommittee and at tonight and just said, look, we just need a $32 a per year rate increase, an 11%
Well, that's
rate
wonderful
increase.
when you're making $160,000 a year.
But
I represent people that are
I
on
understand.
Social Security, and $32 a year is pretty hard for them when they're getting $10 increase in their check.
I appreciate that,
And
Counselor. That's why we took $30 million off of the original loan order and came in with only 35 back in June, because I wanted to phase that in. But what I was going to say is, in terms of the presentation to the council, we could have come in and just said it's an 11% increase this year. And I don't know if anyone would have balked at that. But we wanted to be right up front and tell people, we're going to show you over the next 5 years. But we
Mr.
can show you
Manager,
out even further
No
than
matter
that.
what you're saying is not going to resonate well with the people that are getting an increase in their Social Security of 0.1%, while we're saying it's only an 11% increase, when it doesn't cut it for people that are having such a very, very hard time. I know you're trying, but all I can see is it raising 72% over the likelihood of what you showed us. And I think that I would like to see the mayor establish an ad hoc subcommittee to oversee and monitor the process of these upgrades. I really would like to see that. So I'm having 3 issues here: to lower the bond from 35 to 26. I don't know, maybe no one else here wants to do that. And to stretch the payments out from 4 years to probably 10. And to have the mayor establish an ad hoc subcommittee so we could have someone monitor the upgrades and report back to us.
Mr. Manager?
Councilor, I don't know how to make it more clear. The amortization is not being done over 4 years, it's being done over 20. We've only shown you 4 years' worth of rates. As far as the reducing it down to 26 million, if the council wishes to knock back the rate requested, we can then come in with a loan order amendment that rescinds $9 million or $9 million, and we could do that. It would have an impact. That would have an impact on the annual rate. That would reduce the annual increase from $32 down to $26. But we could, if the council so wishes, we could do that, but something would have to give. We'd have to look probably at the flood control devices or the odor control.
Well, that's just great. That's my neighborhood with the odor control, but we thought we asked you to come back with something that would have been less of an impact to the ratepayers. At least I thought that's what the issue was when we were discussing it. I mean, I'd like it all too, but it's just not feasible to people that call my house.
Mr. Manager, do you have a presentation you want to show the council?
Well, I don't really have a presentation per se. I mean, certainly we can show you. Do you want to?
You don't have to. If I didn't know what you want.
I think it might be worthwhile to
Before you
people.
show that presentation, just let the council know whether the auditor has furnished you with this information. I call the auditor. On the $5,500,000 bond, there's $259,151 remaining. In the $5 million bond, there's $2,555,715 remaining, for a total of $2,814,866. So there's nearly $3 million sitting there in a bond. Okay, Mr. Manager?
Did we have any money in enterprise account, or was it just the water enterprise?
We do have money in the enterprise account. You'll see that, in fact, when you saw that in, I think, some of the presentation material we gave you last week, but we can show it again to you tonight. And frankly, we would have had more in the enterprise account if the city council hadn't and the city administration hadn't transferred money out of the enterprise account over the last 3 years to fund the operating budget. We would have had, I believe, $5 million left in that account, or $5 million more. But it was decided back in 2004, I believe it was, 2005, to start taking money out of the enterprise to boost up or hold on. And that, as you know, caused a structural deficit problem in the operating budget, but it also drew down the enterprise account. This could have been put off a little bit, or the rates even reduced if we'd done that. But at the time, the decision was made to do that and use that money. But Mr. Moses has a couple comments, and then he can show that if the council so wishes a little bit of a presentation on that.
I'd like to take this opportunity to further explain phased borrowing so that everyone understands that. Let's take the $35 million. The plan is not to go out and spend $35 million on day one. That's spent over several years. The first year, that portion is raised, and we amortize that portion of the $35 million for 20 years. Next year, we need more money. We borrow that portion of the 35 and amortize that for 20 years. So now that matures 21 years out. And then the third year, we'll borrow more, borrow that for 20 years. And so you have little pieces every year, but that 20-year time frame keeps moving out. Is that clear?
The 20-year time frame keeps moving out, but the rates keep going up gradually every year, too.
That's right, and that's preferable than to a large increase.
To 10 years, then you reduce it a little bit, don't you think?
I think maybe, Councilor, we're missing your point that maybe if we show you a little bit of an analysis of how we set the rate, did the rate structure, it will show you that if you take that $35 million.
If I owe you $10 and you're giving me 4 days to pay it, but if you give me 10 days to pay it, I pay you the money a little less at a time, and it's not impacting me. Don't you understand?
I do understand that.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do to the ratepayers. I don't want
to
put them in a...
But the problem is the $35 million, the question is, can we defer the $35 million over 10 years instead of spend the 35 over 10 years as opposed to over 5? And I suppose you could do that, but that means that issues like the flood control devices, that means the odor control devices, and that means the screw pumps are going to take a total of 10 years to deal with as opposed to 5. And it also means, or 3 probably once you go through the borrowing, but it also means that it's going to delay dealing with the other issues like the other $30 million that needs to be spent at the plant that's in your presentation that we provided you, as well as dealing with the CSO issues that are out there without making major impacts on the rates moving forward. Basically, what we're trying to do, Councilor, is exactly what you suggested at the beginning of your comments. Smaller increases at the beginning all the way through as opposed to big spikes that are very large. If this council had done that 4 years ago and kept that going, we wouldn't be looking at 11% today and an 18% next year. We would have been looking at much smaller.
Councilor Milonazo, are you going to show a presentation,
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Right.
You need your microphone. Does that go over there? Take Andy's.
You've seen this spreadsheet before, and what first shows up on the screen is going to be hard to read. It's the spreadsheet that was distributed 2 weeks ago. I've made an adjustment so that it shows up bigger.
Is that your family photo? Family photos?
That is family photos. Okay, this is the spreadsheet that you've seen. Nobody can read this, I know that. If you can live without the detailed line items, I will make it bigger and it will show just the revenue total, the expense total, and the fund balance, and the rate increases. That's what it looks like. Now, if I can walk you through, in this cell right here, that's the revenue stream, and it goes out by year. This cell down here are the expenditures, which also goes out by year. And that's the surplus or the deficit each year. This is the beginning fund balance. This is the change for the year, and this would be the ending fund balance at the end of the year. These are the individual rate increases. This is what the average bill for the homeowner would look like. And this is the increase in the bill over the prior year. As the manager said, we smoothed out the rate increase somewhat by shaving that second year 26% down to 18%. And as we move out, we needed to add a fifth year of increase, and it's 6.9, almost 7%. There's a large increase in 2014, but actually a decrease in 2015 that offsets that. And there's some drawdown of the fund balance that causes that. And then out beyond that, you see about 2 to 4% increase per year. Okay, that's the entire model. If we go back to 2009, you can see the effect that we would have of lowering the bills. If I change those rates, I can show you what happens. Let's say, for argument's sake, you wanted to reduce that first year rate from 11 to 5%. So I'll put in 5%. You can see the deficit changes a little bit. And now by 2013, right here, you're $2.5 million in a deficit. That means you have to raise your rates more through here. So where are you here? You can raise it back up 25%, and that still doesn't get you out of the hole. So maybe you go up 30%, but that's not going to be easy, 30% in 1 year. The concept is that the costs are out there now, and you can pay me now or pay me later, but it always gets harder and harder and harder. And if we ever get to a deficit, that goes on the taxpayer, on the taxpayer's back. Now, I'll change this back to 11% and change this back to 18%. I can change the amount we borrow to the 26 million. And now you have a surplus out in 2013, but not too much of a surplus. That's going to allow you to shave off about $6 a year throughout that schedule. It's heavily, this drawdown happens very slowly during the first couple of years, and that's because much of the big debt service for the $65 million that we've already paid and borrowed starts to hit in 2012, 2013.
What's the reason in 2014 that it really skyrockets?
For that, I'll have to go back to the bigger sheet, and it will be hard to read, but we had talked about drawing down the balance without borrowing. This is where we begin to do some of the work, do some of the construction work without borrowing, using that $8 million. If we increased the borrowing and didn't didn't draw down that over 3 years, you might be able to stretch this a little bit further. But the idea is that $8 million in the bank right now is too high. We don't want to be that high. We want to eventually get down to $1 million. And really, to draw it down there, you have to pay for some of the construction in cash.
If I may, though, that is something that happens in 2014 and has there's decisions that we can make in 2012 regarding how to proceed with that. That maybe we don't use cash, maybe we use debt. We can make those decisions 3 years out, as opposed to, that's something that's a little bit farther out there, because the 48% clearly is something that isn't acceptable to us, but we do want to draw down. It's hard for us, and you know, and it was, very frankly, it was probably hard for the council back in 2004, when we talk about raising the rates a little bit, when at the time the enterprise fund was sitting there with $8-9 million. How can you raise rates when you're sitting there with $8-9 million? But if it had been done, we'd be in a different picture today than we are today, because we would have increased those smaller over time. And that's what really, you know, you like to be able to continue to feed in and then have it be a smoother transition as opposed to these large spikes.
And I'd like to illustrate one other concept on a different model, and that is what's happening with the $35 million. Hopefully you can read this. The yellow lines are actually what we have not borrowed yet. Everything else we've borrowed. This line, I know you can't see it, is the $35 million. If we started this project today, by the time we put the bidding together and borrowed money for the first year, we wouldn't pay debt service on that until the following year. Our first debt service payments would be about $600,000 in 2011, rising up to about $1.3 million in 2013. You can see that gradual increase. That is because we're doing this work over a period of a couple of years. That's how we phase in $35 million and make it affordable. If we had done it all at once, borrowed the money all up front, you'd be slammed with $1.3 million, $1.4 million in the first year, and you'd never be able to afford it. It would be rate shock to people.
Chair would like to recognize Councilor Amercian and Councilor Milonauz and Councilor Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tom, if you reduced this to 6% instead of 11%, can you tell me off the top of your head what that would mean in terms of rate payments? Right now, we're looking at a rate increase for the first year, 2009, of 11%. And that number is, what is it, the $3.25? $32, right? All right, what would it be if it was only 6%?
It'd be 6% or a little over half that. So half of 32 is 16.
Okay.
So we were talking about maybe $17 or $18. But don't forget, that second year now goes up to between 25 and 30%.
Yeah. That's assuming everything stays the same.
Right.
As far as the economy is concerned and as far as Congress is concerned. Are you familiar with the Congress's new stimulus package they're putting together? One of the items in that stimulus package is infrastructure money to go to cities and towns across the country. We don't know at this point if that's going to pass. But if it does, there could be next year money available from the federal government to help us with our problem beyond the CSO, but the problem we're dealing with right now. We really don't know that, just like we didn't know in 2004 that not raising the rates would bring us to the dilemma we're in. I think the relief that people are looking for, as far as I'm concerned, is today. Because today is where they're having the hardest time of all, and it's going to get a little bit worse in the next few months based on the economy. And so even though it's only $16 is a lot of money to people who are on fixed income and people who have to pay this increase. Now, I am not suggesting in any facial manner that we should be doing the work that needs to be done. I don't think anybody in this council denies that. I think it's a question of prioritizing when it should be done, how much of it should be done. Now, the $35 million that we're talking about bonding is going to do X number of work, including the pumps, the levee, and so forth, right? That $35 million won't be drawn down the first year. And so the $16 could sustain the plan that we're having, knowing full well, however, that the next year, if nothing changes, that it'll be a bigger increase than we're looking over on a period of 4 or 5 years. Am I right in these assumptions?
Your concept is right, but again, we're treating this a little bit like the federal government is. You bring in the federal government, treated Social Security and Medicare. We're saying,
I'm happy with Social Security.
Let's not raise that revenue now, and let's see how it goes.
Well, I'm not saying not raise the revenue. I'm saying not raising the amount of the revenue you're raising. I'm not talking about not raising the revenue. Something needs to be done. I realize that fully. But I'm just suggesting that why does it have to be 11% in the first year? And you told me it's because if we don't do the 11% this year, next year it'll be higher than is anticipated here, assuming that everything stays the same as it does, assuming that the 35 million public works amount is going to be the same. I mean, these are all based on estimates. The 35 million being bonded is based on the estimate of what it's going to cost to do the work that you want to do. And if that's the case and the estimates are right and they're not lower, then the 11% comes into play. I'm just wondering if anybody has given any thought to suggesting that this first year, which is a tough year for most people, okay, it couldn't be a lesser amount of increase than is being proposed.
I can go back to that model if you'd like to see and plan out 6%, but I can tell you one thing, that half of this increase is not because of the $35 million, it's because of the $65 million we already spent. So if you choose to cut that rate in half from 11% to 6%, none of that 35 gets done because we can't pay for it. So the 6% only pays for what we've already spent.
So in this 35 is debt interest on what has already been spent. Is what
in the 11%.
Yeah, in the 11%.
Right.
So the 35 million, though, which brings about the 11% for the first year, includes money that has already been spent from the 65 million.
Actually, the 35% really doesn't kick in until the third year, if you remember that schedule. The debt service doesn't start until the third year. Okay. You need half of that 11% and half of that 18% and half of the other two 11% and half of the 7% after that just to pay for what we've already built.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Manager Lynch, did you want to respond?
I think Mr. Moses covered basically what I was going to say. I think that it's important to note that the $65 million is what's driving the large portion of this, and I certainly appreciate what the councilor has mentioned regarding the potential action of Congress. And of course, we're not sure what's going to happen there, if we'd be able to obtain any of that money. And certainly if we were able to, we would do so and put it towards this, or put it towards other infrastructure needs of the city, like the additional $30 million or like the additional CSO work, so that we can hold that down over the future. But again, I think that not raising it, the sense I got certainly from the council at the subcommittee meeting was that there wasn't so much concern about the 11%. The concern was the 26%. And if you only do 6% this year, you really can't move forward with the 35. If you do move forward with the 35, with the odor control, the screw pumps, and the flood issues, then we would have to raise it much, much more in the future, and that would be I think that would be a very dangerous thing for us to do.
Council Milonazo, and then Council Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What we have before us tonight is a request from the administration to increase the sewer rates by 11%, by about $32. We did approve a $35 million bond authorization in June, and we were told at the time that the administration would be back to us with a rate increase based upon the fact that we hadn't had a rate increase since November of 2004. I think what we have before us is we're doing some good planning, good capital planning. Clearly, the work that needs to be done out at the sewer treatment plant is long overdue. I'm prepared to support the 11%, having seconded Councilor Bill Martin's motion, and I'm prepared to keep the $35 million intact. I was the one that, at the subcommittee meeting, asked the administration to come back from the 26% in the second year to another number, and it sounds like that other number is 18%, is what I'm hearing this evening. So we are able to smooth out that second year increase. But again, in my opinion, and we're all obviously entitled to our opinions, it's work that needs to be done. I'm not willing to take a chance, especially as it relates to the flooding issues over in Centerville and Pawtucketville. I have a friend who was involved in both a fire and a flood, and he indicated to me he'd have a fire any day as opposed to having to go through a flood. And I know that the people in Centerville and Pawtucketville have had a couple of years where it's been terrible what's gone on over there, and a number of the members of this council have gone and assisted them, and I think that we need to continue that assistance and good work through making sure that work like the Warren CSO station as well as the flood protection work gets done as part of this $35 million bond authorization. Again, Councilor Armin Mercier brings up a good point about the stimulus package, that if it does get approved, there could be money in there available from the federal government in order to deal with infrastructure improvements. But again, if we're not holding up our end of the bargain at the time that money becomes available, we may be overlooked for any additional funds if we're not actually carrying out work that they've asked us to do, especially as it relates to the levee and the pumping station over in Centerville. So again, in my opinion, the work is long overdue. If we have a catastrophic failure at that plant, it's not actually going to fall on just the ratepayers. It'll fall on, obviously, it'll go on the tax bill, and the tax bill would increase, in my opinion, dramatically. So, again, I'm prepared to support what we have before us this evening, with the understanding back to the administration that we need to continue to work through the city council, be it the finance subcommittee or the Councilor Rita Mercier's idea about having an ad hoc subcommittee to look at the work that's going on there. I think is also a good idea. But again, we need to keep the progress moving. We need to begin paying back the $65 million that we borrowed, the $35 million that we authorized in June. But again, I'm prepared to vote what is before us. Again, with the understanding that next year, when this administration comes back to us, that the number needs to be a more reasonable number than this 26% that we saw at the subcommittee meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council Lindsay.
I think every point that's been made tonight is a valid point, is a concern, has been weighed into the equation, and I couldn't agree with them more. I think that the fact that Congress is entertaining a stimulus package probably tells us that we're not the only council or community that's sitting down talking about, water and sewer and infrastructure. And I think that it's going to become a hot button in Congress in the next several months. So I thought it was a good point that Councilor Kazanja made, that if there is federal money available, and we'll be able to ask or request that shortly, that some of these rates would be adjusted, okay, if that came to fruition. And I don't think that's out of the realm because, like I said, I think it's a big concern of what's going on across the country. The enterprise fund, I'm not comfortable that, we've created these enterprise funds or these little businesses, as we said, in that I think that they create transparency. Everything isn't built into, one tax rate. Somebody brought to my attention down in Florida, everything is itemized. How much goes to the schools, how much goes to each and every division that is broken down. So I think these enterprise funds are good, but we can't raid them every time that, they make a profit or that there's money available in them. And I think that, just it makes good business sense that you take any money that's left and you invest it in your business, or in this case, the treatment plant. Steve Conan said he had to reach for one dime, and I also agree with Councilor Rita Mercia that, there's only so many dimes on the Bureau, and that's a difficult thing, and we've addressed different financial things, and we don't want to keep a dime, a dime, a dime. It absolutely all adds up. My other question is, former Councilor May brought up German technology, and I just happen to be familiar with some infrared technology that apparently is state-of-the-art in places they use on Cape Cod and things. If I could ask Mark Young, and I agree with all these out-of-state travel things because I think that's how people and departments learn and see things, is the technology that we're about to fix the problem the best technology out there, or is there something else that we should still entertain, like former Councilor LeMay said, how much, it could be great technology, but how much does it cost to transport the sludge and everything after that? Have we looked into all of those?
I think, Councilor, I think that's a great question. I'm going to let Mark speak to the specifics of the consulting engineers that are here. But in terms of the sludge, I don't think that we're really doing much with the sludge in this phase. That's the next phase. But I will tell you that both Mark and I had a meeting with a firm that's a cutting-edge technology that uses a different means of disposing of the sludge, and it basically disappears on site. It's like magic. It's, sort of bioengineering that removes that, and that's something we're looking at for the next. And that has the possibility, I believe, how much do we spend on sludge removal?
About $2 million.
$2 million a year.
For disposal.
If we can use that technology, obviously it's going to cost us something, but that's included in the next phase, that $30 million I've referenced. That has the potential of saving us $2 million, $1 million to $2 million a year in operational costs, which thereby helps us with further capital improvements or, potentially in the long term reducing the rates.
Councilor, we are always looking for innovative technologies and anything that we can do to reduce costs and save money, especially with sludge or energy. We are arranging a field trip to Seabrook, New Hampshire. They have a new technology that is a company that's experimenting at their treatment plant with good results, and they've actually approached the city to see if we're interested, and we'd like to go up and visit them to see how well it's working in that application. Smaller plant, we want to make sure it'd be applicable to a larger plant. But there are some technologies in regards to sludge reduction that are pretty exciting, and in particular there's some that not only reduce the sludge but produce energy from it. And I am always looking for ways that we can reduce our energy bill, particularly for our treatment plant, because it is rather large.
Okay, well, that's a comforting answer, and it's kind of like when your arteries are getting clogged and you're hoping they'll come out with a procedure that they won't have to open you up and clean them out, so that's good. Is there any way into this rate that we can build in a senior citizen discount when it comes to the water rates or the... So,
senior citizens over the age 65 are eligible for a discounted rate. Senior citizens.
Okay, so there's a discount already built into that. Okay. Okay, that's all the questions I have, and I plan to support this ordinance.
Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's obviously been a lot of thought, a lot of time, and it's a very difficult decision to make as a councilor when you raise a fee or tax or any type of rate. But I think one of the key points here is Councilor Rita Mercia said she's voted yes, 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 and sometime you have to say no. But I think the part we're missing here is all the votes that weren't taken, all the rate increases that weren't brought in for a yes or a no, and now all that deferred expense in maintenance is being thrown at us now, and we have to deal with it. To defer it again, and if we can get some aid with the stimulus package, that's tremendous. We still have millions and millions and millions of dollars to spend to improve our infrastructure, just the CSO work. So, and another $30 million at the plant on top of this. So, I think any bones we can get from the federal government, if that is passed, and we're going to be amazed to see how they're going to figure that out. But if it is passed, I think we have plenty of things that we can use the money for, and also to lower the rate. If we decide that we've done enough work, we can sit tight for a little while, we can lower the rate. But I think that we have to, make a responsible decision now that's going to play out over the next 5, 10 years, as many years as we need to see, so that people understand we're making decisions for the entire city. And that means people that are elderly, that can get a discount, and people that are unfortunately on Social Security disability, people that are rich, poor, and somewhere in between. But it also has to deal with the quality of life and the risk that people in Centerville and Pawtuckaville, they've already gone through twice, devastating events that we've received some aid from federal government. But what happens when they come in for the third one and they say, folks, we've told you for 50 years, fix the levee. We've told you 2 major floods, fix the pump station, fix your levee, and you haven't done it. We don't have any money for you. We're going to spend it over in Worcester where they've maintained their levees, where they've done these things that we've been telling you to do. The Army Corps of Engineers sent letters. We have to own up to this expense and maintain this stuff and protect all the citizens. The $32 a year can be a lot of money. There's no question. We all have families and friends that is a lot of money. A dime to me is $100,000 to Bill Gates. Everything is relative. So we all have to be conscious of that and make that decision. And when we determine whether we're going to support this or not. But I think the key here is that this is a plant that is, everybody here agrees, in dire need of major repairs. We have a levee out there that we've been told over and over and over again we need to fix. We have residents that are sitting now and paying $1,500 to $2,000 more in insurance. How fair is that? That we can do something to try and help them to reduce that. To me, it is a tough decision, and we don't want to raise rates. Nobody here wants to raise them, but we have to look at what's best. And we just recently, I believe, when we had a catastrophic event, one of them anyway, back in the spring, was it April, where we had massive rains, and I believe, were on a watch list, and we had some problems with the EPA because we released raw sewage into the river because we had a shutdown at the plant. How many times has that happened before the city gets fined? We can't shut it down because we have contracts with Tingsboro, some with Tingsboro, Chelmsford, Tewksbury, Drake. We have contracts. We can't. We have to, pass it through, and now when the EPA comes back to us, we're going to be hit with another ticket. We're going to get fined for it at some point. These are things we have to own up to and have to maintain and be responsible for. And it comes with a price. Maybe we can find other ways to save. Hopefully, we'll recognize more energy efficiency out there, and maybe these numbers will look better next year or 3 years out. And maybe there'll be more assistance, more technology we can save in the next phase. But I think that we have to look at the big picture here, that we have a number of areas here that have to be addressed. There's no question it has to be done. So we either say we're not going to do it, decide which $9 million we're going to cut off. We're going to not deal with the odor and let people suffer with that, or not deal with the potential flood protection and let the residents deal with that risk again. I don't think it's a fair thing to do. I think this is, the city is in totality. Everybody has to deal with it together. It's a very difficult vote, but I think it's something that we have to do, and we have to start maintaining. We're going to run into bigger and bigger problems out there if we don't bite the bullet and do the responsible thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Elliott, did you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did have a subcommittee on this several weeks ago, and Council Mercier, you are correct. I do have the minutes. We did ask you, Mr. Manager, to come back with some priority according to the minutes. And I do remember, come back with the priority of those items that are of absolute necessity. And I think that's what Councilor Mercier was looking at, as well as I was. Is this Is this the list, I mean, in chronological order or of priorities? The influent pump station, the solid and septage. If that was the way that this were to be funded, would the last item be flood protection?
It would be a difficult choice between the odor control and the flood protection. Obviously, the flood protection would have major impacts if there were a flood, so we're running a gamble or a risk that wouldn't happen again, but it would have a financial impact, certainly to the city, in terms of our ability to get Corps of Engineer funding for further work in that area, including that flood wall. The odor control is something that obviously has been an issue here in the city for some time, and I think I mentioned this earlier. Those would be the two that we would look at to try to change. So I guess it would probably be in this order, Councilor. But it is certainly the most important priority is the pump station. Believe me, if those were to break, and back, Councilor Broderick mentioned back in April, we did have a problem where 3 of those screw pumps went down. We had to spend $200,000 bringing in more apparatus to pump it out, pump it through the system and out into the river. And we've been negotiating with the EPA based upon the notion that we're going to do this work. If we do not move forward with this work, obviously we're going to have more negotiations with the EPA regarding some type of fines or some type of corrective action. In terms of the other issues that were taking place there, again, solids and so on, it would go in this order. So yes.
So you, and I understand the net discharge issue, but this isn't going to solve wet weather storage, is it, Mr. Young? I mean, you just don't have wet weather storage for when we have major down. Is anything going to solve that? We're still going to have discharges, unfortunately, one way or the other.
We're still going to have CSO discharges unless we do a lot of comprehensive source separation.
Okay, so this is not going to solve it, unfortunately. I mean, when we get 3 or 4 inches of rain or 2,
No, we will still be having CSO discharges.
Right. Have we gotten fined for those from?
Are we getting currently fined for them?
Yes.
No.
Okay. So, Mr. Manager, the odor control system, the CSO, Warren Street CSO station, or the SCADA upgrade remote controls, those are more important than the odor control?
I would say so, because they deal with the issues that we have with the EPA, the negotiations, the agreement that we have with the EPA on dealing with the issues of the CSO. I mean, if you have the in all those cases, it improves the operations and deals with the CSOs, which we're under order by the EPA to deal with. Absent our ability to do that, then we're no longer in compliance.
Well, why wouldn't that be up a little bit higher, the SCADA CMS system and install asset management system? Upgrade remote controls, wouldn't that be more of a priority? More
of a priority than the solids and septage, or of the pump station?
I thought we were talking about the CSO station.
No, we're talking about CSOs. If you look at the high flow management SCADA and CMMS, that's to improve operations, comply with the permits that we have, and to reduce CSOs. Again, we've worked out arrangements with the EPA to deal with the CSO issues, and those are all part of that agreement that we have.
I understand that, Mr. Manager. I sat in on those meetings, but I guess the bottom line is we're just trying to minimize the impact. And we did vote for it in June. That's absolutely the case, and I did too. But I think the economic times back in June are significantly different than it is now. I guess the other issue back in '04, when we did vote for the increase as a result of the consent decree from EPA to proceed with phase 1 of the CSOs, which again, it's only phase 1. Maybe we should have taken a closer look at the amortization of those bonds, because in the out years, and this still is not going to solve amortization after 2013. Correct, Mr. Moses? Or, I mean, according to that. So we're still looking at increases, which troubles me. And I completely agree. We need the improvements out there, but how much can we afford at this particular point in time is the message that I think that we're concerned about. it'd be nice to do all of these things, but again, what can we afford, and what can people at home afford? I know when we're looking at the solid waste issue that we're going to discuss tonight, to solve the problem, it would have required $290 increase per household. That wasn't affordable to people at home. So we're moving to another system. And even the $175 that was recommended at that time was not affordable to people. So we were looking at a $25 increase. So maybe I don't think we're trying to shortchange or affect progress or commitments that we have made, but what is reasonable and what can we afford? And I understand $32 this year, but it's next year. And with all due respect, it'd be nice to look for a stimulus package, but the way that Congress is operating, I don't want to make decisions based upon what could possibly come down. I think we need to plan now and know what can we afford. And there are other phases. You have mentioned, Mr. Mayor, this is just a phase 2 of a multi-million-dollar problem and situation over there. And we didn't invest when we probably should have, and we're going to have to continue to do that. But I just don't think that we can do it all and we're not doing it in one fell swoop. But at this particular point in time, how can we possibly expect after, and we have motions on coming up, how can we expect to do this when I'm a little concerned about the assessments as well and the impact of the tax increase. We also put a budget in place in June. I'm going to strongly presume that we're going to have to revisit that budget based upon what we hear from clearly the state and how that may, hopefully it won't trickle down, but how that's going to affect our budget. So I guess I just have one more question, Mr. Manager. Or Mr. Young, of the 10.5 that we spent or that was obligated for 5.5 to Menino Construction and another $5 million repair and maintenance of sewer and drains, 5.5, and the other is gravity thickener upgrades. Where does that play into this system? Because part of the presentation includes work on gravity thickeners and other work at that plant. Is that going to supplement any of these, any of the work in this bond authorization?
Council, that's work that's currently ongoing.
Right.
5.5 is for source system rehabilitation, which includes pipelining, heavy cleaning of sewer lines, root control, and obviously just replacement of old sewer lines. We borrowed the 5.5 million to address infrastructure needs on the street by spending 1.1 million a year to do that. The other loan was for the emergency repairs for the blowers and for the GTs, which are ongoing.
Okay. I mean, I want to do the work that's necessary. I want to, address the odor control and the infrastructure work that has not been done, the aeration blowers. I know I filed a few motions to take the settlement money from the towns and apply it directly towards that. Have we received that money?
Yes, we have.
We have, and that was 1.1 million that went right into the trust fund.
It did go into the enterprise fund, but as I said, we took about $5 million out of the enterprise fund to prop up the operating budget.
Okay. Well, and the flip side is, and I know there's state revolving fund money that we have applied for and we have received, and this will affect that. But I think considering the times that, we just need to scale this back and spend what we can afford.
Councilor Lindsay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, one of the areas that I struggled with a little bit was the levee and the pumping station and the $9 million figure, but, I just think that, with the climate changes that are taking place, the ice is melting faster, there's some homes are falling into the ocean. The fact is there's more water on the planet than there has been. And what goes up must come down, and I don't think it's going to be 100 years before the next flood. My gut feeling is that we're going to face some serious climate issues again here in this immediate area. So I don't think we can say, hope for another 100 years. I think that you know, by all scientific studies, this is a fairly permanent thing, and I wish that, you know, that water was falling on Atlanta, but it's been falling on New England. So my gut feeling is that that after I struggle with it, that we probably should address it, and if it's going to affect what FEMA or the federal government provides for us down the line, if there is a bad situation, then I think we need to cover our bases.
Councilor Martin, Councilor Rita Mercier, then Councilor Cassandra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, one question. This project is eligible for state, I don't know what the SRF means. I assume it's sewer relief fund or something like that.
Revolving fund.
Revolving. And this is the $35 million that's yet to be issued. It's been authorized. All of that 35 is eligible for this, or a portion?
I believe we're going to try to get the whole thing in there. How successful we'll be on that, I'm not sure.
But we've had some discussions with the state. That money is available still at this point?
There's more demands for the money. In prior years, there's been, I believe it's $450 million that's been set aside, and the requests have been about $450 million. I believe this year the requests that are being talked about are up in the vicinity of $900 million. So we'll be competing for this money, but we feel confident.
So roughly twice as many requests as funds available.
That's correct.
So even in a worst case, we'd be looking at 50%.
Well, it writes down the they write down the interest rate down to 2%. So there are some projects that are not going to be eligible or will not receive any assistance. We feel comfortable with, given the magnitude of our problems, that we will compete well for that money. We may not get, as you say, 50% in terms of the amount that we're able to be approved. Perhaps they'll knock something out here and not give us a 2% loan on that or write down on that. So I'm comfortable that we'll get something as long as we're able to put it in the by the end of October.
All right. So, well, my point here is there's been a lot of talk about federal money and what the stimulus package and what the Congresswoman can get for us. But, you know, in my 9 years here, I've spent most of my time being disappointed by what the federal government has been able to deliver to the city. I think we do very well on some HUD projects and very little anywhere else. When this sewer plant was built at one time, that was 90% reimbursement. No longer. We've got mandates from the federal government, from FEMA on flood control, from the Army Corps, from the EPA on sewer separation, all with no funding. When I've had meetings with those officials, they look at our rates and they say, you know, your rates are too low, you have to raise the rates. You know, I look back and say, hey, I thought you guys were the Republicans. Aren't you the ones supposed to be out for the taxpayer? You don't get anywhere with those arguments. So as hopeful as I am, and as much as I agree that the federal government should be doing some of this public infrastructure work, that we should be spending some of our federal tax dollars in this country, that hasn't been my experience here in 9 years. However, we do have some state funds available for this project. So to let this go any more into the future, we're going to leave money on the table, in my view, which is why I think it needs to be appropriated now. All 9 of us sat here and talked about the need to do this work. And in fact, I think if we discussed the next $30 million of work, we'd probably agree that we need that work too. So I don't think there's much debate about the need for the work. It's a question of how we pay for it. And I think at least we have some avenue of some relief today. If we get more in the future, we wouldn't have to anticipate these next rate increases. We're just voting 1 year's increase right here.
That's correct.
Right? All the rest still have to come back. And if those federal funds come through, then those other requests won't be as steep as we're projecting right now. Also, we're talking about the lowest end of that right now. Look at the debate we've had, 2 hours tonight, 2 hours in a subcommittee meeting last week, much time in a subcommittee meeting before that, to talk about the smallest piece of the increase. So to think that it's going to get easier over time because somehow the economy is going to be improved, it's, again, not in my experience. I haven't ever been here in the 9 years and known when it was a good time for a rate increase or a tax increase. It seems like there's never a good time and I don't see it getting better. I understand the economy is not good and people are hurting right now, but I look to the example in 1991, 92, this city was in receivership, and that's when we voted the bond for the new schools. And look what that turned out to be, what a boon that was for this city. It enabled, I think, for us to get a good price, a good competitive price, like Mr. Conant referred to earlier. I think there's a lot of truth to that. When you're bidding things in a down economy, sometimes you're able to get more for your dollar. So as much as I don't want to support a dollar more than's necessary, never mind a dime or whatever it is, I understand people are feeling pressure right now, but they'd be feeling a lot more pressure if the plant failed and we're under some order to do it right away when we didn't have a chance to competitively bid the project. So I think this is the prudent course of action. It was well ahead of the council. When we looked at this in June, we knew these increases were coming, and we all voted for it. And so that's why I made the motion to approve this tonight. I know it's not an easy thing to do, but I think it's the responsible thing to do, and I'm going to support it.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Everything that's before us are things that we have supported. When we saw that Pawtucketville and portions of Centerville were struggling under water, it was quite evident that they needed help. There's no doubt about that. And when we heard people come to the podium and they talked about odor, and I'm further down, so I kind of don't smell it, but as you go by, I have smelt it many, many times. And I certainly don't want the wind to blow this summer and have them equate that fragrance with my name, that I didn't support something that was truly warranted to be fixed. Having said that, there's something that really bothers me that I need some clarification on, and I have been very supportive of wastewater. Whenever they've come forward, I've always supported it, but you know, these are very difficult financial times, and I did receive calls from people that said, please help us out, will you? So that's what I'm bringing forward as a message, and I know these things have to be done. I don't want people to be struggling, but people are struggling to pay the bills, but I don't want the odor control to stop. I don't want that to not be fixed. But I'm troubled by the pumping station that hasn't worked in 28 years, and all of a sudden we need to put it online. So I need to be convinced that I don't think that pumping station was the reason that they were flooding in Centerville. So how can I justify keeping that on the list? And if you could come to the podium and convince me, perhaps I can, you know, change my mind a bit, but that to me is troubling. So how does that have to become fixed, and why do we have to have that done right now? Because I thought when we built the wastewater treatment plant, that was shut down to divert that to your plant up there on 110.
The original design of that pump station on West Street
Right.
was designed for when we had a flooding event in the city and a major rainstorm, that there was no way to get that rainfall from the Centerville area to the river because it was too high. So that section of Centerville, and particularly Lakeview Ave, would flood underwater. The pump station was designed to pump that flow into the river. And you're correct. Now, with the treatment plant there, as long as we would have the all available screw pumps, 4 screw pumps, we are somewhat of a safety valve for that area, but we could not handle all the flow. If we were to have a flood like we had in the last 2 years, and a major rainstorm like we've had recently, where we had 4 or 5 inches of rain, Lakeview Ave would be underwater.
Mr. Manager?
If I could add oh, sorry.
Because the screw pumps aren't working?
Even if they were working, Counselor, we could not take in that volume of flow. The plant can only take 110 million. And as a matter of fact, during the last 2 flooding stages, because of the level of the river, we could only get 80 million out of the plant. So we couldn't even take in our full flow because the river was so high. So we could take some flow, but we were not designed to replace that pump station. And that pump station was designed to protect that neighborhood during high river and heavy rain.
So in the recent rains that we had in the past that flooded certain areas of Centerville, if that were working, it wouldn't have happened to them?
During the recent?
Yes.
No, that was because of the capacity of the interceptor and the plant. That was only designed for that scenario where you have a high river, like we had the 2 flooding events,
Right.
and concurrent rain.
Okay.
If we have the high river without the rain, then there's no need. I mean, it was specifically designed for that scenario.
So in the two, like in April of '06, and in May of, I don't know, whatever other time.
07.
If we had that working, they wouldn't have been impacted that greatly.
We could have pumped everything out.
They would have been okay then, right?
Yes, yes.
And you know, I don't believe that it's not going to happen again. I firmly believe that it can happen again. I really do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mark, a question that was put to me actually earlier today on that very issue is L Street over in that area. Councilor Lenzi raised that question
L
with me.
Street? That's one of the areas that we're looking at for source separation beyond the 2011 deadline that we have with EPA, probably a phase 2, because we know some of our pipes are undersized, and we do have bottlenecks in that area that need to be addressed. It's one of the areas that we're going to be looking at.
Would the pump station, would this pump station coming back online help that area, in addition to the area that you've already described?
Yes, it would. If there was a scenario with the high river and the rain, yes, it would. It would avoid the flooding in that area.
Councilor Kazanjian, then I want to relinquish the chair.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor
Mr. Young, I have a couple questions with that pumping station. Are the catch basins from the area going to that pumping station? Where's?
The catch basins from that area flow into the interceptor that flows through that pump station, yes.
Okay, and this thing hasn't worked in, what, 28 years, is that correct?
Yeah, however long it was since it first, around that time, 28 years.
How much did it affect that Centerville area with this not working, and what would the difference be if it was working? I know Councilor Rita Mercier asked that question, but I'm still not convinced that would straighten the problem out.
It would straighten the problem out if we had a high river level and a rainstorm. That's what it was designed to do. If it was going to be a normal flow, we could use it as a pump station for CSOs, but it would provide some protection for that area. It would. That's what it was designed to do, to protect that area from flooding during a heavy rainstorm.
Okay, thank you. I just have a couple of questions also. Talking to Mr. Young when we toured the facility, the Warren Street station was not a priority according to him, and now the manager says it is a priority. So this $3 million, my thing is, I know we have to do it, but what are the priorities that we have to take care of? I mean, what can we eliminate? And Councilor Rita Mercier mentioned maybe a $26 million loan instead of 35. What can we eliminate here that isn't a priority when, like I said, when I talked to Mr. Young, he said Warren Street, was probably the leaser of the priorities versus the others. I mean, so, and you're saying it's something different.
Based upon the agreements that we have with the EPA, I would put the Warren Street CSO station higher than the other issues that clearly are a problem here in the city. But in order to maintain our relationship with the EPA as we move forward with the next phase of the CSO, as well as the issues that we have with the that we had this past April with the screw pumps, I would say that we need to make sure that that's done. And again, that's only $3 million. If we're trying to achieve what Councilor Rita Mercier mentioned about getting us down to $26 million, that only gets us $3 million. I suppose then you could take out the odor control system and get us down closer to the.
We don't want to do that, but according to Mayor, we have $3 million left in a $5 million bond.
Councilor Kazanjian, I'd like the auditor to clarify that. I probably gave you the wrong figure.
All right.
So if the auditor can re-clarify that.
If you're talking about the 10.5 million?
No, the two bonds, Madam Auditor, $5.5 million and the
And
$5
5
million.
million.
Yes.
10.5 was authorized.
Right.
We've borrowed 5.1. The balance from what we've actually borrowed is 2.3. But Mark Young can actually tell you what that would mean to not borrow the rest for those projects.
Well, we need to finish the gravity thickener upgrade. That was also bonded to repair all the roofs in the utility, because we have most of the roofs leak. Matter of fact, the roof above the electrical for the screw pumps is leaking. In the presentation, you see the top that was put over that. So that money was to finish that project and to do the green roofs.
How much money are we talking? What's left there? Is it $8 million? Is that what you?
5.1 of the 10.5.
Okay, so we have over $5 million for roofs, and what else?
No, I'm just saying what we borrowed. He's talking about what we have to actually.
There were two separate loans. It's not a loan for
Correct.
10.5.
5.5 is the 1.1 per year.
Right.
The 5 million
Okay.
is the one we borrowed for already.
The 5.5, Counselor, was for the sewer system rehabilitation program. That's where we're borrowing 5.5 to spend 1.1 million a year on sewer system rehab throughout the city streets.
Is that the one we just, was that in February that we just?
Yes, around
January?
that time.
That's going to be for the facility itself, is that correct?
The $5 million?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
The $5 million is for the facility itself. The 5.5 is spread out over a period of time. It's an authorization so we can execute contracts over the next several years to do sewer repair work throughout the city.
Okay, also,
if I may, Councilor, Mark, could you address I think the councilor raised a good point regarding the CSO project out on Warren. Could you address the prioritization of that?
If I could just say one thing about all these, Councilor Elliott, you asked if these are in chronological order. They're all important. And as you know, we didn't come in with these 6. This is not a wish list. This is all projects that we have to do. Originally, we came to the manager with almost a $70 million plan that the manager asked us to defer and scale back. Those projects that we've scaled back and deferred need to be done also. So we scaled back to what is the priority items. They are all priority. They all need to be done. Warren Street is a CSO station. Obviously, we need to maintain that so that we do CSOs and comply with our long-term control plan that we've negotiated with the agencies. But I think more above and beyond, more important than that station is a safety issue. I do not feel comfortable sending my workers in there, in that station, to perform their duties unless that station is fixed. It doesn't have lights, it doesn't have ventilation. It is a dangerous situation. I don't like it, and I want to get that station fixed. I think I am endangering city workers by having them go in there. We have to go in there. We take the proper precautions. That station needs to be upgraded and fixed.
okay, but you have to understand where we're coming from. You want to raise the rates, and we're not talking 11%, we're talking 72% over 4 years. And we have the worst economy since the Great Depression, and it's not just the city, state, or this country, it's the world. I mean, everything is a problem right now. And you want us to raise the rates considerably. Now, are we voting on to 2013 on the rates? Is that correct?
Voting 1 year right now.
1 year right now. That's
right. And then when we come back next year, and we will come back next year, the question is whether we'll be at 18% or whether we'll be able to shave that down. And certainly, it's our objective to come back and shave it down. And keep on shaving it down. If we can make savings in energy, if we can make savings in the sludge that, Council Lindsay referenced, the new technology that's out there to deal with these issues as we move forward, it's certainly not in our interest to come forward with large rate increases. We prefer to come in with smaller rate increases.
Also, we've got contracts from different towns that should be ending in, a couple of years, 2 years?
Couple years for Drake and Tewksbury, and I believe Chelmsford is 2015.
Well, this should put a big impact into this supposedly rate that we've...
That will be, obviously we can't put anything in there now because we haven't negotiated those.
Right.
Keep in mind that we are under some rules of rate structure based upon the fact that this is a regional facility funded by the EPA, so they have some jurisdiction over how we structure some of these rates. We can't eliminate the Lowell rates and put it all on the other communities. But certainly, we've already begun working on how we can look at these rates for those other communities moving forward, so they pay a comparable rate to the citizens of Lowell. So yes.
Have you figured any type of cost for these two towns in 2 years, what might put an impact into that rate?
Well, no, we don't have anything on that yet. Again, I think I spoke to this at the subcommittee meeting. The capital costs for the plant, those
right.
Go directly
Right.
to the ratepayers in those other communities.
Right, that's correct.
It's the operational costs that we will be looking to, and actually we're discussing bringing in outside counsel to help us work with those negotiations to bring those change
Which will
those
help the
rates.
taxpayers in the city here, if we get an operational cost
Exactly.
increase from different towns, is going to help.
The
help us.
ratepayers, yes.
Correct.
Yep.
So right now, we're just voting on this 1 year, and the other years are not.
1 year and next
But
year.
that $35 million is going to have an impact on that.
It will have an impact on it, and of course, that $35 million is already approved, but all we're looking for right now is the 11%. We've made a commitment that we'll get it down, the next year down to 18, and we're going to try to get it down even further, but, this is just for 1 year, and next year we'll get to do all of this again.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
Council,
The chair recognizes the mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think earlier in the evening, at least 3 people indicated this was going to be a marathon, and it is. But truly, this is what good government's all about. Have a debate, have a discussion, and what's at stake here? First of all, I am 100% behind upgrading and addressing the waste treatment plant. There is no doubt in my mind or any councilor's mind that that has to happen. I toured the facility maybe 10 years ago, and I toured it again a month ago. And Mr. Manager, the facility is deteriorating right in front of your eyes. The odor control system, we must address that for the people who reside in Centerville and Belvedere. The influent pump station, solid and septic processing, the screw pumps, the electrical, that has to be all addressed. What's before us is how we're going to pay for it. And shame on the council and shame on me. We probably should have had this discussion before a $35 million bond came before us for a vote. That's the shame. We should have had that discussion. And then we could have had subcommittee meetings and discussed how we're going to pay for this. And that's sad, really sad. As many councilors have indicated, the annual increase is $293. It's going to go to $505. That's a 70% increase in the sewer rates. The pumping station on the VFW highway, it's been down for 28 years. And it's strange that the waste treatment plant has been operating for 28 years. And that pumping station, before we had the waste treatment station, I believe, pumped the sewage into the Merrimack River. Am I wrong or right, Mark?
Well, nothing was pumped from that station because the station cannot pump. We could use it by gravity, but when the river gets high, we can't use that station at all.
Right. Well, it's a pumping station that's been down 28 years. And the federal government is coming into our city saying, you have to fix it. And you have to fix the levee. And you have to separate your storm drains EPA is telling us we have to do that at a cost of probably $120 million. We are a small urban city in the United States. Where do you draw the line, Mr. Manager? Where do you say we just can't afford anymore? Now, to tell an elderly couple or a young couple with 2 small children, they're going to pay $500 a year for a sewer rate increase. That's bothersome. That's really bothersome. And I don't take it lightly.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just for my clarification, just to make sure that we're on the same page on that, it's not a $500 increase.
No, it's
$500 a year.
That's right. It's going to go from $293 to $505.
But again, that's not what's before us.
Right.
What's that?
That's not what's before us tonight.
Eventually, it will be.
But again, it's not. The only thing we have before us tonight is the 11% increase.
Madam Chair, I have the floor.
Yes.
Eventually, that's what the people are going to be paying for a sewer rate increase. There's no getting away from it. So, Mr. Manager, I'm going to ask you, would you be willing to step back and come in with a different fiscal plan and address all the needs at the waste treatment plant? Address all those needs. But it doesn't have to be $35 million. That's the question I'm going to pose to you.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I like to think I'm pretty good with numbers, but I don't know how you could address every single need that's been identified that everyone is agreement upon and do it without paying for it. So something would have to be cut. And I would look to, again, I'd sit down probably with Mark and TJ and look at this in more detail. But I'd have to say probably it would be the flood protection that would probably have to come in at the number that you seem to be suggesting. And I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't think it's, your comments regarding the Corps of Engineers coming in and telling us that we have to repair that station or telling us we have to repair that levee. I think we have to remember that the federal government gave us that levee and gave us that pump station, and all they asked was that we maintain it.
I'm not saying we should not repair it, but we don't have to repair it all at once. We don't have to invest all this money at once.
Again,
you have to you have to take a step back and see what we're doing here.
I think, Mr. Mayor, if you a little bit earlier, we talked about how we're going to spend this $35 million. We're not going to go out tomorrow and spend $35 million. We're going to spend this over the next 5 years. But you have to raise the rates a little.
Right. And they're going to go up to $505 a year.
You're going to have to raise them a little bit each year so that you have enough money on hand to pay the bills when they come due. And they will go up to $500. And I understand that that's a 70% increase. It's an increase of $200 per year.
That's right.
And I understand that for some people that may be a challenge. But by way of comparison, someone mentioned the city of Worcester. The city of Worcester, I believe, just doubled their sewer rates. The city of Manchester did something similar. And I think we indicated in the presentation we made that we rank 159th out of all the communities in the state in terms of our sewer rate. There are communities like Lowell, and some probably less well off than Lowell, that have larger sewer rates because they've made the improvements and they're paying their way to get those done. And again, I go back to it that I would rather put it on the sewer rates than have this. Ultimately, all this work is going to have to be done. And if we don't raise the rates, then ultimately this is going to be put on the taxpayers of the city of Lowell. And if it's put on the taxpayers of the city of Lowell, the large institutional users of our sewer system, the university, the hospitals, and so on, will get off scot-free.
I'm not saying we shouldn't raise the rates, Mr. Manager. My argument is, why are we borrowing $35 million?
Well, again, I think
that's not the total cost of the upgrades to the waste treatment plant. Total cost of the upgrades to the waste treatment plant is $26 million.
That's correct.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Why can't we address the waste treatment plant, take a breath, step back, and then address the levee and the pump that's on the VFW highway?
If that, if that's what the council would like, we can certainly do that. But again, I think we have to take into consideration the impact that's going to have. If this spring there's a flood, and there is damage down in the Centerville area, I think it's very conceivable that the FEMA will say, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. You had the vote before you and you didn't do what you were supposed to do. So therefore, we're not going to give you emergency assistance. This is the policy that they've adopted ever since Katrina. And I certainly think it's within the realm of possibility that, well, certainly the people are going to continue to pay the flood insurance. It would make it impossible for us to ever petition for a redrawing of that flood map. And I also think that, any idea that we have that the Corps of Engineers is somehow going to incorporate $2 million in their plans for us to build that flood wall along Beaverbrook are out the window. And the only way we're going to get that type of funding from the Corps of Engineers is through their appropriation. I think if anyone watching the presidential election this year will see that it's very unlikely that there's going to be much more in the way of earmarks coming through the Congress. So the notion that somehow we're going to have someone going in there and tacking a $2 million bill onto a piece of legislation is very unlikely. The Corps has to step up, and the Corps has to support us on this. But they've put us on notice that we have to do this work, and they're frustrated. They're frustrated that the city has not lived up to its end of the bargain.
Well, if the majority of the council supports your proposal this evening, that's the $35 million plan, and you can rest assured the sewer rates are going to go up to $505.
At some point in time, I think they probably will be going up that high, because we've talked about the fact that this is already, the 65 is already out there. The 35 is already out there as well, although we can always rescind some or all of that. But we still have another $30 million worth of work that needs to take place out there at the plant. We also have another at least $50 million that has to go into the CSO project. So, yes, ultimately, the rates are going to go up to $500. They will probably go higher. But that's the cost we have of having a system that the citizens of the city can depend on and that meets the requirements of the state and federal government for clean water. I mean, we would certainly not be happy here in the city of Lowell if the city of Nashua or the city of Manchester or the city of Concord upstream decided they're not going to comply with the CSO requirements that they're under. And we had to, pull that water out of the Merrimack River for our drinking water. Likewise, the federal government wants to make sure that the people in Methuen, Haverhill, Lawrence, and so on down the river have clean drinking water as well. So that's what the CSO project's all about.
Mr. Manager, you're preaching to the choir. I was the chairman of the subcommittee on that for years. So I know all about the CSOs and the cost to the city.
Yep.
My argument is, how do we accomplish our goal, but not let it be as severe to the people in the city?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think we've done that to a large degree, as I think Mr. Young has already pointed out. They came in to me with a $70 million proposal to put this out this year. I sent them back and said, you've got to reduce that. I'm not going into the city council and asking for $70 million. We'll do $35 million this year, and we'll do $30 million down the road. But we can't, we've tried to draw the line on that already. You have a listing of the $30 million right in your package. That's, if you want, but again, if you want to take something out of this, if we want to revisit the $35 million and take out the flood protection, which you seem to be indicating you want to take that out.
I question whether we spend $6 million on a pump that hasn't operated for 28 years. That's my question.
Well, I think
And if we lived without it for 28 years, Mr. Manager, I don't see why we can't continue to do so for a few more years.
Yeah, I think there's other things the city hasn't done in 28 years and should have done, and they haven't, and we just continue to live with it. In this particular case, I think it serves a purpose that Mr. Young has already described. I also think that it serves a purpose politically for us in terms of dealing with the Corps of Engineers and FEMA and making sure that the people of that neighborhood are protected and don't have to buy flood insurance. But again, we've gone 28 years without that. That's a possibility. We can keep on going without that. But again, I think we're not living up to our end of the bargain with the Corps of Engineers. We'll just, that's...
Well,
I'm trying to do, very frankly, bringing this in before the council, I had just just a couple rules. One, it had to be something that was, reasonable. And I certainly think $32 a year for this. And then, yes, there are going to be increases moving forward, no doubt about that. We're going to try to hold the line on that. But I think $32 a year is reasonable, particularly when we compare ourselves to what the market's out there in terms of what these costs are.
Mr. Manager.
The other issue, though, is I felt it had to be something that was responsible. And, we have to live up to our requirements in terms of maintaining this infrastructure and making sure that the people of the city of Lowell are wisely protected, and we're looking out for their interests with the way we do this.
Mr. Manager, if $32 a year was before us, we'd all be home watching the Red Sox right now.
Well, that's all that's before you.
Right? It's $32 is minute.
That's all that's before you,
It's
Counselor.
the $505 that isn't. That's my issue.
Well, frankly, that's a battle for another year. The question is whether you want to do I guess the question is, it should have been discussed back in June, is whether you want to do the $35 million. That's the real issue. The council voted that unanimously, knowing what these rates were going to do. It was right in the package that was presented. But if we want to revisit that because we don't want to support the rate increase now, that's fine. But I think there are ramifications, and that's my job to tell you that there are ramifications.
And Mr. Manager, believe me, the council, wants to work with you. They do. The waste treatment plant needs attention tomorrow. That's how bad it is. It needs attention. And I'm willing to vote to make sure that waste treatment plant is upgraded. But we don't have to address the pumping station and the levee now. And I agree with Councilor Elliott and many others who spoke. We have to take a step back. I attended the meeting at Beacon Hill last Friday, and next year, things aren't going to be rosy as far as finances are concerned with the state, for every community.
Are you done, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of things, this is a very difficult vote. Nobody wants to raise rates, and I think that's perfectly clear, and that's why we've spent 5-6 hours on this in the last few weeks. I did have these rate increase figures, we all did, when we voted on the $35 million. I think part of the problem is sometimes, as a body or individually, we operate in a vacuum sometimes. And I think it was a good example of this is the Councilor Kazanjian asked about lights for Calorie Park and what it would cost, and we got back a nice detailed sheet on what the cost is going to be. So it's not all rosy, let's put lights up for the kids. There's a cost that comes with everything. And I think that saving $9 million, or not spending $9 million right now, because it's not saving, it's deferring it. My quick math calculations, it's $4.27 off of next year's rate by not doing the flood protection. And for me, sitting here in my chair, I don't want to take the risk that that pumping station could alleviate flooding over in Centerville, or the levee problem that we don't take care of in the next few years, whenever it is done, creates a problem for people to get reimbursed if there is another flood in Pawtuckaville. Or, this is a difficult decision. But for $4.27 next year, again, it's going to grow, but it's also the fact that we're going to get the money at 2% versus whatever the rate may be whenever we decide, now's a good time to raise the rates. I don't think anyone's ever going to say that. There's no good time for a divorce. There's no good time to raise rates. It just doesn't happen. So the reality is it's going to get more expensive. These numbers are going to go up. We probably are going to get a better bang for our buck doing it in a down economy. It's going to create some jobs, and it's going to probably get better pricing for us. But we're also going to save thousands of dollars, and I don't know if you have the number, Mr. Manager, but or Mr. Moses, on interest only. I think we heard the number of $20 a year, the increase in interest, only if we don't take the opportunity we have now. You know, I have a motion on later to find out what was the governor's position last Friday, Mr. Mayor, at the meeting you were at. And it is a bleak picture. Do you think they're going to have 2% money out there next year or the year after? We saw what happened to school building assistants since I've been around. You know, and before this, it was federal money for the sewer, for the plant. This money is drying up. It's a fact, and it's something we have to deal with. But for $4.27, which is what's before us right now, I don't want to take the risk that it might have alleviated the flooding over in Centerville, or it would help. The levee's going to help over in Pawtuckaville. But that's just my position. I understand it's a difficult vote, but I think sometimes you can be penny wise and dollar foolish.
Mayor Caulfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The $9 million in reference to the $35 million is a 25% reduction in the bond. So it should indicate there should be a 25% reduction.
No, we're bonding $100 million. We're paying for the 65 we already bonded. The rate is going up regardless of what we do tonight. The 35 gets rescinded. We're still going to have to go up to cover the 65 that we never increased. That's the problem. Everything's been deferred to us. We have to pay the piper now. Or we continue to try and defer it and hope that we're out of town when the dust settles. The reality is $65 million is on the table now. This 35, if you just do the math, it's $2.40 per $5 million. That's what we were told at the subcommittee meeting. It's $4.27 to cut out the flood protection. I just don't see how that can be worth it.
I just have one last question for the manager, Tom. If this payment for this bond was spread over a 20-year period, wouldn't that be more beneficial to the people?
Mr. Mayor, I think we've already addressed that. It is being done over 20 years.
Was that?
It is being done.
I don't mean raising their rates
70%
in 4 years. I'm talking about...
The bond is over 20 years.
Yeah, but I have right in front of me. You gave it to me.
That gives you 5 years.
Increase over 4 years.
I think Tom should walk you through the spreadsheet that goes out 10 years. It continues to move up because this borrowing, the $35 million, is being paid off over 20 years. We just gave you a 5-year snapshot of what's happening with the rates over that period of time. We gave a full presentation on that earlier tonight.
I know.
But it's 20 years that's being paid off. All of the 65 and the 35.
But what I'm saying, Mr. Manager, why are the ratepayers, the people in this city, going to be hit with, all right, it's the first year,
perhaps, Tom,
it's going to go to, what, $325, then it's going to go to $410.
That's right.
Then
Except we're not sure about the 425 and this 505. We're considering tonight one single rate increase.
That's correct.
Not the 5-year plan.
That's correct.
And it was answered very clearly. Tonight is just that 1 year increase.
That's correct.
You projected over a 5-year period.
But we're looking at the whole picture.
But there's 35
When we're only voting for 1 year is what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think Councilor Mertz here is right. We're showing you the whole picture. Right. We're being right up front on what this is going to be.
But
we
we're not
showed you
voting for the whole
You're not voting the whole thing. All you're voting for is 1 year.
1 year.
And what we showed you on that initial sheet was 5 years out. The bonds are over 20 years with borrowing part of the 35 year 1, part of the 35 year 2, and every year it goes out farther and farther. So, you know, the whole 35 million won't be paid off for 25 years when all is said and done. But we just showed you 5 years. We showed you 10 years tonight, showing what happens with this. But we're managing this. We're planning it and managing it in a way to minimize the impact, recognizing that there's work that needs to be done to benefit the citizens of the city, and that's what we're trying to address and get that in there. But it's all being done over 20 years. They've paid off, 20 or to 25 years.
I just don't want to see the rates increase rapidly over a 5-year period. They should be level funded right through the whole 20 years.
Mr. Mayor, I couldn't agree with you more, and that's what we're trying to achieve. We played around with some numbers earlier today where we did a 0% the first year, or 0% the second year. By year 3, it was 120% to get the rates to cover the cost. You have to go up a little bit each year to minimize that impact. Otherwise, you are going to have that major spike. And that's not fair to the ratepayers to have that happen. At the same time, it's also not fair for us to make believe that this work doesn't need to be done or can be deferred, and we have to be responsible and get this work out there and get it done. But all you're being asked tonight is to vote one rate increase, and we will come back again next year, and you can tell us no. You know, hopefully you'll say yes, and you'll be pleased with the fact that it's not 18%, it's 15% or 14%.
Mr. Manager, we won't have any, we would have to vote for it next year because you're going to start the work. We have to support it.
Well, you don't have to. We can run it into deficit. But, you know, again, you've already voted the $35 million.
Yes, and if we had this discussion before you brought in the $35 million bond, it might have been a different story.
Well, Mr. Mayor, we presented the package you have in front of you is the same package we gave you back in June. The same exact package. And it had in there all of the rate increases that were being proposed to cover this. And again, we're not saving $9 million by not doing that flood work. All we're doing is deferring it. Or you know, maybe we're not deferring it. Maybe we won't do it ever. But the end result of that will be that we will no longer be in compliance with what the federal government is asking us to do and has been asking us to do for a number of years now, and pretty much instructing us to do.
That's all I have to say, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Kazianjian.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. You say we're voting on 1 year, but basically we're not. We're voting on 4 or 5 years because we're voting on a $35 million bond that's going to be spent, and that's the numbers that you have in front of us for the rates. So basically, when you say it's just 1 year that we're voting on, that's not basically true. We're voting on 5 years in front of us, or 4 years in front of us, that's going to come up to $505.
More than that. You're probably voting even longer periods of time.
So,
but
it's not just the 1 year vote that we're voting on. We're voting to spend that $35 million, and we're agreeing to this fee or disagreeing to this fee that's in front of us.
Well,
so that's basically what it comes down to.
You've already, I think you're looking at it the right way in terms of, you know, recognizing that this is something that's going to have to be adjusted each year, but you've already voted the $35 million at the time. I wish we had discussed the rates back then because there seemed to be much more support for it back then than there is tonight. But, you know, if you want to raise the rates a smaller amount and just means we don't move forward with the flood work, you know, that will be, we'll come back to you in a couple of weeks rescinding that portion of the loan order. But frankly, I think that's not the right thing to do for the people of Centerville. But, you know, we can certainly do that if you so desire. But I think Councilor Broderick ran the numbers, and I was just asking Tom to run the same thing. And obviously, we looked at this already a little bit, but you're talking saving people $4.27 a year for each of the next, well, moving forward. If you take out that $9 million, that's what it is each year, $4.
No, it can't be because we're jumping up from 11% to 26%.
Because
then goes up another 11%. So.
Because you've got the 65 that's coming due. We start paying that debt service more fully, and you've got the remaining $26 billion that you still have to fund. It's still $91 million that you have to pay for.
Any further discussion? Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't disagree that this should have come in, and you know we can point fingers and say that we should have addressed this when the authorization came in, but I mean that's why there is a rate increase that accompanies this bond authorization. We can rescind any bond anytime we want, and if we don't think that it's compatible. No one has a, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback to say, you know what, we should have looked at this, we should have understood the implications more fully. We've been discussing this and we'll continue to discuss it for hours because it is important. But it is before us. And maybe it's 427, or there has been so many numbers bounced around here this evening, but maybe it's minimal. But it's in addition to all of those other minimal increases that we've experienced, or the consumers, the homeowners have experienced, whether it's, again, the recycling. We've raised fees, permit fees. who knows? I mean, really, I'm concerned with what's going to happen with our tax rate. And then we'll hear that issue that it's only X amount of dollars per year to get services, and I don't disagree. But how much more can we expect from people is a concern. And maybe we are trying to make up for bad practices, and we need to. That is unfortunate. There's not much we can do. We're confronted with this, and maybe it needs $70 million more work. I don't know. Was this, and again, I guess we go back to the levees and the pump station, because I don't happen to disagree. We want that protection, but $6 million for a pump that may or may not be used in the next 100-year flood, that's tough to swallow. The Army Corps came in, and we asked them, we asked them to do a study, and they did do a study. And they came in with recommendations. This is what you should do. They're not coming up with any money. I mean, let's face it. They didn't come up with money to do the study for us. We had to beg, borrow, and steal and go through the Congresswoman's office and Senators Kerry and Kennedy to have them to do that. They've not come up with any money. Army Corps of Engineers come up with no money to do Clay Pit Brook. We've been begging them, but they don't have any money. So I don't see any money coming in for these projects. And Council Martin's right. We've been here for all these years. We see very little money for capital improvement projects from the federal government. So what happens? We end up having to pay for these big nuts ourselves, and it's just I just don't think people can handle it. But it is. We are voting for 5 years, because next year we'll come in and say, you know what? You voted the 11% increase. What do you want us to do? This is what we're faced with. I'm sure you will do your best to minimize the impact, but we're still going to be stuck with an authorization that now we probably will have already gone out and spent some of it anyway, and there will be no other choice. So, those are my comments, and it's not easy, and we're passionate about it, but we all want the work to be done. We all understand it, but it's it's difficult. To move forward on these, on such a big increase.
Any further discussion? Because we have before us a motion made by Councilor Bill Martin, seconded by Councilor Jim Milanazzo, to approve the annual sewer use charge. Roll call.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Reluctantly, yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Well, I've got no choice. I guess I'll have to vote yes.
Thank you.
Reluctantly.
Not after the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Before we move on with the agenda, I want to compliment and applaud the council for your patience, for a great debate on a very serious issue. And it was damn if you do and damn if you don't. So. Finishing the public hearing, it's unbelievable, we're still at a public hearing at 10 minutes to 10. To take by eminent domain and a fee a certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for your municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Oberlin Avenue, Carly Way, and Bridget Lane, and other municipal purposes associated therewith. Those wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium. Those wishing to speak in favor? Yes.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Gregory Curtis with the law firm of Goldman & Curtis in Lowell. I'm here on behalf of Kazanjian Enterprise, Inc. with regard to O'Hare Way. This project has been completed. Deed was submitted to the Law Department along with an indemnification agreement, and we hope that the city will accept it at this time. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Public hearing is closed. This matter will be referred to the city clerk for 2 weeks. The last article on the public hearing. National Grid requests pole on Plain Street. This will be referred to the wire inspector by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Yes.
Hi.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Those wishing to speak in favor. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Dave Aguirre, and
It's been a long night.
I'm representing National Grid. We're asking National Grid, the City of Lowell, for permission to install a pole on the corner of Chelmsford Street and Plain Street.
Yes.
The purpose of that, they're widening the intersection.
Right. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition, refer to the wire inspector by Councilor Armin Mercia, seconded by Councilor Bill Martin. Yes,
Mr. Mayor, going back to O'Hare Way, that was on for public hearing. Are we supposed to vote? You said something about coming back in 2 weeks?
Yeah. Yes.
We're not voting tonight?
No, it has to be held in the city clerk's office.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, there's a gentleman that's been very patient sitting in the audience this evening, and if I may, just get away from the agenda. It's probably a year and a half ago, I brought in a motion about installing the railroad tracks on the cement piers and so forth. And Mr. Ronsley brought it to my attention that those cement ties and so forth have been destroyed. So, Mr. Manager, could you look into that for us, please? Because the National Park has the rails, and there's about 25 feet or 30 feet of rails, and it's... You want to come to the microphone, Mr. Ronsley? Suspension of the rules, move for approval. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors and Mr. Manager. You know, we lost the battle all for the want of a nail. For the want of the nail, the shoe was lost. For the want of the shoe, the horse was lost. For the want of the horse, the battle was lost, and we lost the war. So you're only fighting a nail at a time. But I got a situation here that I think tonight I found out who the city manager was.
Mr. Ronsley, could you be very brief with your
Yes, I
presentation?
will. About in 1991. Here's the document pictures of what you want to see. Back in 1930, the Boston and Maine gave to the city of Lowell an 8 to 10 foot piece of what we call fish belly railroad tracks, a monument, a memorial put on Lucy Larkin Park. In 1991, it was lifted up by the Lowell Historic, when I say historic, it's the Historic Preservation Commission. And they put it somewhere. 1995, City Manager Dick Johnson contacting Superintendent Rich Ramber of the National Park that is taken in the commission. And it's been going since then. The mayor brought it up last year and had TJ working on it. Nobody seemed to know where they were. If you look at these pictures, I found them 3 days ago. They're in atrocious condition. They're broken up. It was criminal. Okay, no money. Don't give no money for it. I want you people to ask, now, demand that National Park replace and reposition those tracks. They are an artifact that cannot be replaced. And if you look at these pictures, you'll see nothing but destruction.
Mr. Ronsley will refer this to the manager. The manager will address it with the National Park, and we'll have a report for you.
There's a lot to like about Lowell.
Okay, thank you.
We hope.
Thank you. Moving on with the agenda. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 11 thereof entitled License and Permit Fees and Other Charges. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor William Martin, seconded by Councilor Armin Mercia. Second reading by title, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 11 thereof entitled License and Permit Fees and Other Charges. And let me see. Referred to a hearing October 28th by Councilor Kazanjian, seconded by Councilor Lindsay.
These are all petition the legislature. You want to do them all at once? There's three of them.
We have several petitions before us. Would you like to take all these petitions at once and vote on them all at once? The Councilor Martin approved, seconded by Councilor Armin Mercier. First one, authorizing the filing of the legislation with authorize the City of Lowell to enter into a long-term lease for the retail space in the Middlesex Street parking garage. Motion to waive the full reading, second reading by title, authorizing the filing of the legislation which authorizes the City of Lowell to enter into long-term leases for retail space in the Middlesex Street garage. The second petition, authorizing the City of Lowell to petition the legislature for authority to establish an act prohibiting certain dumping in the City of Lowell. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Rita Mercia, seconded by Council Milonazo. Second reading, authorizing the City of Lowell to petition the legislature for authority to establish an act prohibiting certain dumping in the City of Lowell. The third petition, authorizing the filing of special legislation which authorizes the City of Lowell to provide funeral and burial expense benefits to all employees eligible to receive benefits whose death occurs in the line of duty. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Rita Mercia, second by Council Lindsay. Second reading by title, authorizing the filing of special legislation which authorizes the City of Lowell to provide funeral and burial expense benefits to all employees eligible to receive benefits whose death occurs in the line of duty. Any questions, any discussion on any of these petitions? If not, roll call on all three.
Councilor Lindsay.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Elliott. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Full reading has been waived pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Any questions on this particular article? If none, roll call.
Councilor Lindsay.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian.
Yes.
9 days.
The next articles on the agenda, there are three from the fire department. Any problem with taking those three for the fire department at once? I'll read them. Any discussion? You can interject.
Could we take all six, Mr. Mayor? There's 6 grant,
Well, that's, even sounds even better, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Mr. Town Council. Okay, I'm going to read them and waive the full reading, and we'll go through all 6. Vote, authorizing the city manager to submit a grant application to the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security and the Department of Fire Services under its fiscal year 2009 firefighting equipment grant in the amount of $28,378 for the City of Lowell Fire Department. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Lindsay. Authorizing the city manager to submit a grant application to the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security and the Department of Fire Services under its fiscal year 2009 firefighting equipment grant in the amount of $28,378 for the City of Lowell. Second petition, authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and expand a grant through the State Emergency Response Commission in the amount of $843 to provide a one-time supplemental stipend to the Lowell Fire Department. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Lindsay, seconded by Councilor Martin. Authorize the city manager to apply for, accept, and expend a grant through the State Emergency Response Commission in the amount of $843 to provide a one-time supplemental stipend to the Lowell Fire Department. Vote authorizing the city manager acting through the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, accept, and expend a community development action grant in the total amount of $1 million from the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development to complete needed infrastructure and streetscape improvements along Jackson Street in the Jam neighborhood. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Rita Mercia. Authorizing the city manager acting through the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, accept, and expand a community development action grant in the total amount of $1 million from the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development to complete needed infrastructure and streetscape improvements along Jackson Street in the Jam neighborhood. Next article, authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and expand a grant in the amount of $350,000 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Cultural Facility Fund through the Mass Development and the Massachusetts Cultural Council for proposed capital improvements to the Lowell Memorial Auditorium in the city of Lowell. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Armin Mercia, seconded by Council Martin. Authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and expand a grant in the amount of $350,000 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Cultural Facility Fund through Mass Development and the Massachusetts Cultural Council for proposed capital improvements to the Lowell Memorial Auditorium in the city of Lowell. The last petition authorizing the city manager to apply, accept, and to expend funds from a grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Public Health to be administered by the City of Lowell Health Department. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Kazandrian. Authorizing the city manager to apply, accept, and to expand funds from a grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Public Health to be administered by the City of Lowell Health Department. That is the grants, petitions. Any questions? Councilor Elliott.
Just a quick question through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, on the 350 Mass Cultural Affairs, is this 350 for the first phase that we already voted, or will this 350 be for the second phase? It does mention second phase, but it's not clear.
This will be for the second phase. This is for the, Ann Barton is here from DPD, responsible for working with the auditorium trustees on this, but this is mostly for the
Fire safety?
Fire alarm and flooring, depending on how the bids come in. We've sort of broken up the project and bid things out as alternates and done as much as we could with what we could have on hand. So this would be fire alarm, fire safety, and flooring.
And what's the cost of the project, the second phase?
If we were awarded the full grant and we matched it, it would be $700,000.
Oh, so this is a 50% matching grant?
1-to-1.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
9. That's one less than the Rays have scored on the Red Sox tonight.
One what?
It's been a long night. Article 20, communication from manager, accept the resignation of Joy Onosh, Conservation Commission, accept and place on file, motion by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. And Mr. Manager, could we send that person a letter of thanks to?
Reports.
Okay, Department of Public Works, Division of Streets and Highways and Superintendent of Wires, Verizon New England Incorporated, formerly known as New England Telephone and Telegraph Company, West 3rd Street, placed approximately 40 feet of underground conduit. Location approximately is shown on plan attached. Accept, report, and adopt accompanying orders by Council Armin Mercia, seconded by Council Rita Mercia. Any subcommittee reports?
Move
No.
on, move on.
No sub.
No.
That's wonderful. We're into petitions. Miscellaneous, Merrimack Valley Catholic Charities request a 15-minute zone at 174 Central Street, referred to the traffic engineer by Councilor Lindsay, second by Councilor Kazanjian. The Article 23, Mark Goldman requests to address council regarding the future of Lowell. Mark, do your thing.
5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Manager, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell. It has been a long meeting, and I will make this, no, I'll try to make this only 5 minutes. But I'm going to divide it into 3 little parts. What is Lowell? Where are we now? And the final part is, where are we heading? Lowell's a city of over 105,000 residents, according to the U.S. Census. Well, a lot of us think it's a lot more than that, because it's undercounted because of the Cambodian population, that it should be about 120, 125,000. We have about 50 different ethnic groups in the city. We have an all-American city. We are a destination world city with great cultural and cultural attractions and art attractions. Above you and in front of you is a seal that says, "Art is the handmaid of human good," which is one of the reasons the Western Avenues thing was passed relatively about a month and a half ago. We have great art galleries and studios, art and history museums, the MRT, the Lowell Auditorium, organizations like ALL and Cultural Organization of Lowell. We're a Tree USA city. We're a National Historic Park city and a Heritage State Park city. We have 90 city parks. We have the Lowell Drake and Tingsboro State Forest. And finally, we have about 15 neighborhood groups in the city. That make Lowell a great mid-sized city. Where are we now? We have a 20-year ACRE plan that was the idea and the formation of the former city manager, Brian Martin. We have the JAM development plan, which is also a 20-year plan. That began with manager John Cox, and it continues under manager Lynch, now that with the Hamilton Canal project. That has been ratified by the City Council when you passed the Land Acquisition Act a couple of weeks ago. We have a downtown master plan, a Lowell master comprehensive plan. We have master plans for Centerville, Pawtuckaville, and the Upper Merrimack Street area. And this all makes Lowell a first-class city, the best mid-sized city in Massachusetts and New England. Now, where do we go from here? We do have issues that need to be addressed. The CSO, as we talked about for the last 2.5 hours. But others, like public safety, where the city needs to be, and has begun under this manager and under Chief LaValle, to address issues of gang violence. We must get all guns off the streets, out of schools, and for the schools, the neighborhoods, and the business community to be safe and to feel safe. We've had too many instances in the last few weeks of shootings. That needs to be controlled. Education. We now have a new superintendent of schools, and I believe that working with the school department, the University of Massachusetts Lowell, Middlesex Community College, and private partnership, we're going to have a great education opportunities for our young people. Economic development. We must keep not only the new businesses and attract others to locate in the city, but help older businesses that have been here 10 years, that we don't seem to be helping the way we should be. And a lot of them are really struggling now. They're really struggling in this economic mess that we have. So I'm calling on the manager, the mayor, the city councils, the Lowell plan, and various neighborhood groups to try to come up with some solutions. And maybe to do what the manager has done in the past, and that's have some summit meetings or conferences, and have everybody come together to address these issues, and have working groups on education, have working groups on public education, and higher education, have groups on economic development, on culture, and come up with some new ideas and new philosophies of how we can do this in the private and the public sector. Finally, one more item, and this really is something I happened to saw this, the National Park Superintendent Saturday. And that's an idea that came about 4 years ago with the Lowell Flooring City Committee and with the Lowell Heritage Partnership. And that is have Lowell designated a World Heritage Site. And that would deal with just one area of the city, not the whole city, but one specific area, and that's our canal system. And with that, it would make Lowell the best mid-sized city in the nation and in the world, because we would attract people that come into the city from all over the world, and we would stimulate other nations and other cultures to really look at Lowell and see what we've done over these years. I mean, I've seen Lowell in its decline. I'm old enough to have seen it in its decline in the early 60s, to see the progression it made in the 70s, see it have some financial problems in the early 90s, but come back. It can do that.
Mr. Goldman, are you?
I am.
gonna conclude?
I'm almost at the end, and I am registered to speak on your motion at the end, Mr. Manager. So, I really believe that Lowell can become the top city in the nation and the world. In 2000. In 2026, Lowell will have been, as a town, 200 years old. As a city, 2036, it'll be 200 years old. We need to start celebrating some of these years, because Lowell has a lot to be proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Moving on with the agenda.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Was that his State of the City address? I was just wondering.
You have a fan club, Mark.
You all really want him to come back, huh?
Article 24, District 1, Grand Cru County, Liberia request establish sister city relationship, referred to the Law Department by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Armin Mercia. I just want to let you know that the gentleman met with me in the office and expected infrastructure monies and so forth, and there might be something in your packet pertaining to that. Like I said, we can't do that. The Law Department's aware of that, and we're going to create a sister city with Barkerville, I believe, in Liberia, but that's the extent of it. We can't fix our own streets. So. Let me see. Pole location, National Grid to place one pole on Chancellor Street, referred to a hearing October 28th by Councilor Kazanjian, second by Councilor Elliott. And we have 5 claims, property damage, referred to the Law Department by Councilor Broderick and Councilor Lindsay, and they're on their way. I never thought we'd get to the motions.
Mr. Mayor, I had 6 claims.
You do?
In my packet. I had 4 personal injury and 2 property damage.
Mr. Clerk?
So I have 6 to refer.
I have 5 claims written on the...
I know, I have 5 on my, but in my packet I had 6.
I had 7. Oh, okay.
Are there 6 claims?
Yes, there's 4 personal injury and 2 property damage.
Let's rescind that...
to make it
that
6.
vote and refer 6 claims to the Law Department, seconded by, brought forward by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Lindsay. Okay? 6 claims. Okay. Even worse, the Sox lost. So, motion by Councilor Martin, request the City Council consider amending the applicable ordinance to eliminate need for council approval for driveways more than 32 feet in length when they are a part of a project which has been approved by the Planning Board, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. On the motion.
Pretty self-explanatory. This is about the Lowe's thing that was here last week. It just, I don't think there's a need for those projects that have had thorough review to come back here for a curb cut permit. I think it just delays the project at expense and gives people opportunity for appeals. So I know we had comprehensive driveway regulations that we saw not too long ago, and maybe this should be part of that.
Okay, that would help out the general business climate in the city and so forth. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Elliott?
Mr. Manager, I know there's a provision that the police and fire have to go out for an inspection, along with a number of other departments is, what is the logic behind that? On the driveway ordinance?
Just to know if there's any public safety issues that may affect,
Before
particularly with
that's-
the fire department, I would say, with the access into a fire truck in, and I would think with the police, it would be a case of pedestrian safety. In many cases, if you have a wider driveway, it does have ramification. Wider than normal driveway could have some ramifications on pedestrian safety. That's
Okay.
the only thing that comes to mind.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Motion by Councilor Elliott. City Council requests the city manager and the chief financial officer to report on the status of the fiscal 2009 budget, status of revenue collections, and budget expenditures, seconded by Councilor Kazanjian.
Well, the motion is self-explanatory, Mr. Manager, and as you can imagine, hearing news from the state regarding, budget cuts and the impact that clearly will have on local aid, I thought it was important that we get an update as to where we are with revenues and expenditures. Can you tell us where we are with maybe last quarter of the last fiscal year and maybe this quarter of this fiscal year? Is it? I know we put conservative projections into the budget when the budget was going. I know I specifically asked that question. So where do you feel we're at this particular point in time?
In a general sense, and obviously I'd like, pending council approval of this motion, we'll put a more formal report together, and I think it would be advisable with several of these motions to, I think we're due to sit down with the Finance Subcommittee. But Mr. Moses and I and Ms. Wright have been going over some of these numbers in anticipation of some of these issues with the state and looking at the overall economy and how we're doing as we come into, really the point at which we have to submit the necessary paperwork to the state. And I would say that in general, we're on target for FY09. We're lagging behind in certain collection areas or certain revenue areas like interest earnings, as you would expect. Lagging a little bit. We have some concerns about motor vehicle, but we're not really lagging on that because most of that comes due the second half of the fiscal year. On the other hand, some of our expenditures are tracking quite well. So let us prepare a full report to you on that. Obviously, all bets are off if the state decides to do 9C cuts, and I think that certainly the mayor was at the meeting the other day. Mr. Moses represented me with the governor and lieutenant governor, and certainly the sense is that it is a last resort. I've had an opportunity to speak with members of the legislative delegation, including Senator Pangiotakis, who of course is on the Senate, is chairman of the Senate Ways and Means, and it certainly is all indications are that it is not something that they want to do in this fiscal year. And a lot of credit goes to them for recognizing the impact that would have on municipalities across the Commonwealth. The bigger issue for us, I think, is FY10, and we're already beginning, obviously, that preparation work to see, depending upon what happens with state aid for that year. But let us put together a full report, and I think I'll work with you in terms of setting up a meeting of the Finance Subcommittee.
And I can appreciate that it'd be a last resort. But as you know, as we get deeper into the fiscal year, any cuts, have a compounding effect, a doubling and then tripling effect. And I know we can't. Nobody's crystal ball is any clearer than anyone else's. But I am concerned, and we be working on a contingency plan in the event that does take place. Have you thought about a hiring freeze at this point with? Always the exception of police and fire, I suppose. Wage, salary freezes, these things. I mean, no one's trying to press the panic button at this point, but clearly, concerns.
Yeah, and Councilor, I think you raised a number of good points in that question, and perhaps I should have addressed that in my response, my verbal response. We are, a hiring freeze is a sort of a popular concept, but I think we all recognize, as you just indicated when you were describing it, there are certain positions we have no choice but to fill. I mean, they perform, not that some people, not that every position is essential, that we have positions that aren't essential at all, but you have to prioritize. And certainly public safety is a high priority. We also look at positions in terms of the impact it could have on further budgetary needs. So we look and evaluate each position before we move forward. And that's something that we do on a regular basis in good times. But it becomes doubly important or more when in bad times that we have chosen not to fill certain positions already based upon anticipation, even though they certainly would be helpful to the operation, but based upon the questions that are out there. Likewise, we have not moved forward with certain expenditures that we feel that we should hold off on. So we are watching all of that very carefully, and we'll continue to do that. We do have a number of ideas in mind as far as contingencies for this year, and certainly, as I say, beginning to look at next year.
Thank you.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mayor. I like that idea of a hiring freeze. Is that something we can implement, or
Well, I think...
other than public safety, like police and fire?
Non-essential personnel, I mean,
Right.
that sometimes when the manager would have to hire a specialty person or whatever, but non-essential personnel, that's been done in other communities. So.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I think that's more under the structure of government. It's more of a managerial function, that, and that's how it's being done in other communities. The chief executive officer has put that in place.
It's been done here before, though, hasn't it, hiring freezes? Is that...
Certain managers have put it in place, and again, I've put it in place to some degree as well.
I'd like to see if we can maybe possibly put in a motion, maybe, to suspend the rules, to put in a motion to have a hiring freeze. Is that something we can do, Mr. Mayor?
Well, you have a motion to suspend the rules?
Right, yes.
Seconded by Council Rita Mercia. All in favor of the suspension, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The suspensions are in order. Councilor?
Well, the motion would be to have a hiring freeze other than to essential
Or non-essential
employees.
personnel?
Yeah, exactly.
Discussion on the motion?
What about a spending freeze?
Solicitor?
I was just going to say, with respect to a hiring freeze per se from the council, that kind of a broad motion would end up conflicting with the manager's role in terms of making those types of determinations. So just a broad hiring freeze.
Okay, so how do we specify it? What should we do?
Well, they could, I mean, a recommendation, I guess, could be made to look at a whole bunch of these different cost-saving options and request a report, perhaps, from the manager on it.
Okay, then that's what we'll do. We'll make a motion to
I mean, that's just one example, quick example, but.
have the manager come back with a report?
Yes. I know motions have been made in the past pertaining to this issue. Yeah. Motion to have the manager come back with a full report?
That's...
The issue of a hiring freeze, per se?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Anyone second that by Council Rita Mercy? All in favor of the request or the motion to have the manager come back with a report on a no hiring freeze, non-essential personnel, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Council Broderick?
Yes, I was wondering if, for the sake of expediency, because we're fast approaching 11 o'clock, if you wanted to take my motion up with this, we seem to be crossing over into it anyway with the, regarding the governors, the meeting with the governor, Mr. Mayor, you were there, and Mr. Moses, in terms of if we could have a report to the Finance Subcommittee in terms of, again, it kind of all fits together, what kind of plan you're coming up with in the event that there is a cut. I know
Council Elliott, do you have a question pertaining?
No, I was just going to suggest that whether it's a report on positions filled, not filled, and expenditures, spending freeze. I mean, maybe you can just, include it all in one report, and then we'll meet with the finance.
There's no problem taking Council
No, I don't
Broderick's
have-
motion out of
no.
order. Motion by Council Broderick. City Council requests the city manager report on the governor's plan to address fiscal issues and the impact on the city, as well as the manager's plan to address potential cuts and aids and the potential effects to borrowing. Council Broderick, it's identical to my motion.
We take them all up right now.
Go ahead on the motion.
Yeah, basically, just, it speaks for itself. If we could get, and we started to discuss it, that's why I thought we could maybe vote on it at the same time and get it done, is for the manager to come back and let us know what they're expecting. Mr. Moses can report on what they told you folks at the meeting Friday, and see what we have for a plan. How we're going to trim whatever we can.
Well, that's the motion I filed 2 weeks ago.
Which one?
The last motion of on the agenda.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah. The governor is not going to come out with his cuts until Wednesday, October 15th, which is tomorrow. And he informed Tom Moses and I and many other people that as far as the bond bills are concerned, the bridge, the courthouse, anything that's there, it's intact. But there will be cuts in grants, which will affect us. And the governor's going to make some serious cuts in his own budget. And I will get into more of that when I address my motion. But that's as much as we know. Nobody else knows what those cuts are.
No, but I'm just wondering what plan the manager's got, hopefully some kind of plan to reduce spending, hiring freeze, whatever the...
You want to take up my motion now, or?
May as well.
Huh? Motion by Mayor Coffey, request manager formulate a plan to address speculated reductions in the state budget local aid. Seconded by Council Milonazo. About 10 days ago, I presented this to Manager Lynch, and Manager Lynch and Mr. Moses are already working on speculation that there's going to be some cuts. And what I'd like to see the manager do is come up with a plan, furnish it to the council, a 1% cut, 3% cut, or a 5% cut throughout our budget. And I saw the red flag in the newspaper, in the Lowell Sun and the Globe 2 weeks ago. And elected officials in the state said, tighten your belt, there's going to be some tough sledding. And that's exactly what Lieutenant Governor Mary told us and Governor Patrick told us. And next year, it's going to be for some tough times. And the state is down in their revenues by $224 million in the first quarter. So, Mr. Manager, that's the gist of the motion, and probably formulate some plan, and rather than wait until that plan, until we get those cuts, I think we should be prepared. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm informed that somebody has registered to speak on your motion.
Oh, Mr. Goldman.
Thank you. The reason I registered to speak on this motion was because there's also a ballot question on November 4th. And I know that the council doesn't like to take positions on ballot questions, but this one is important because this really deals with a lot more seriousness than what we've just talked about as far as the less revenues that come in last month to the state. And that's the question of the removing or eliminating the state income tax completely. That would even have a horrendous effect. If you think that the budget cuts that the governor's going to announce tomorrow are draconian, wait until if that passes. There won't be a city, a town, or a state that we know of. And I'm hoping that the people that are listening to us tonight, that listen to this council, will realize that you're not going to have police protection. You won't have fire because there won't be any money coming to the state if the state income tax is voted down. And the people must vote no on this. And hopefully the governor's cuts won't be too drastic because they're going to deal with public safety. They're going to deal with the health and human services, education, transportation, things that we're all concerned about. So whatever cuts have to be made, I'm hoping they're not draconian. And there are departments in the city that can't afford to have cuts.